Hello, everybody, and welcome to the deepest dive on The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. Thank you for being here. This is the best, most thorough discussion about The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom on this internet that I'm aware of. My name is Ben Hansen. Thank you for being here. I'm joined by one Jeff Marchiafava.
That's me.
Joined by Kelsey Lewin.
Hello.
Joined once again by Leo Vader.
Yeah. Did it make the sound? I was doing the sound.
It cut up, but it sounds great.
Okay.
Also, we're joined by the great Jacob Geller. Welcome to the deepest dive on Zelda, Jacob Geller.
How is the president standing?
How is the president standing? Here we go, everybody. This is a big discussion about basically our second week with Tears of the Kingdom is probably the best way to put it. If you missed the first discussion, what are you doing here? You can subscribe to MinnMax's YouTube channel. Check out that discussion on MinnMax's YouTube channel where we cover the opening of the game and kind of exploring the Northwest Quadrant, if you will. For this discussion, here's what we're talking about. First of all, a couple thoughts. We greatly appreciate everybody who's playing the game. We don't make any money off of it, but it's just cool that everyone bought this cool game and they're supporting it, I guess. But no, I appreciate everybody that's like writing in over at Patreon, patreon.com/MinnMax with two N's with their thoughts. And people who are like understanding that this is an atypical format for the deepest dive. I saw a number of comments that melted my heart of people being like, I didn't think this was going to work, but yeah, it turns out you can kind of make a game club format work for this game because there's so many things to talk about just on a systems level. So what I'm trying to communicate to you is in this discussion, for Tears of the Kingdom, we're covering the northeast-ish area of the map.
Wait, northwest?
Northeast.
Northwest was the first week.
Northwest was the first week.
Oh, wait. I just got my west and east confused.
Oh, you gave me a heart attack. All right. So
It's the North Carolina of the Zelda map.
Look, I've been in all the norths. I got it covered.
All right, all the north, I guess, is a better way to put it for what we're covering on this discussion. I don't think we're going to dive too deep into story stuff. We can save that for a future episode, all that stuff. So if you're watching this, thank you. Thank you for watching us on YouTube. You can unlock the podcast version of this discussion, all of the discussions for the deepest dive, and help support the game club format to keep it rolling strong by going to patreon.com/MinnMax with two N's. Jump in at that $5 tier. You unlock the podcast version. Hey, just do it for 1 month. We don't care. You do it for as long as you want. You jump in. If you think this conversation and this in-depth discussion about Zelda is worth $5, jump in there, unlock the podcast version. It's very convenient. And if you're over there, you can also submit your thoughts for the next discussion. The plan is, before we dive into any of this, let's give folks a heads up. We are taking next week, I would say off, but it's more we're just like bundling up our excitement because we're still playing Zelda and we'll just be more filled to the brim, ready to talk about it. So we'll be back for the third episode of the Deepest Dive on Tears of the Kingdom on June 5th, technically. So June 4th, we'll be collecting your comments over on Patreon for both of the southern regions. I'm talking east and west, y'all. So head on over to Patreon, submit your thoughts for everything that we forgot to talk about in this discussion, obvious things we missed, or just what you think about the Southeast and Southwest region. And then we'll be back for a fourth and final episode where we cover absolutely everything in the game and the game's ending and all that fun stuff. I gotta say, it is fun, like that Discord channel where also people in the MinnMax community are just sounding off on this game. It's fun to see the entire internet. I still feel like we're in the thick of it, of just like all trying to wrap our minds around what Jeff Marchiafava is doing with his camera.
Sorry.
No, just trying to wrap our minds around like, what is this game? Like, it is such a wild thing. And just to have the entire internet and the entire community here specifically just be like, okay, I think I get it. Okay, so it's this bold and weird of a thing. I love it, I love it, I love it. Should we start with most common comment, Leo?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right, that's what we're doing here. People are on Patreon. They submitted a bunch of comments about this section of the game. Does anybody have a guess? Kelsey, do you have a guess for what the most common comment was, what people were sending in over and over again?
Okay, I'm just going off of last week's energy of it being about the I can't believe the president is standing guy.
Yes.
And it's that your Goron friend sounds like he's saying, why'd you do it rather than I can do it when you're shooting him at things.
I think that every time I'm like, am I supposed to feel guilty about doing this?
Yeah, it's kind of like a Silent Hill character. Why'd you do it?
Okay. What if I told you you're not a single person writing about that? Jeff Marchiafava.
Not a single person,
Not a single person that I saw.
Twitch chat is agreeing, though.
Wow. Okay. All right. They've got your back. What do you think, Jeff?
Is it that it's impossible to play this game on a schedule and we're all way over our heads with what we're doing.
I like that idea. But here's the thing. I was sensitive to, there are those people out there, and I hear them and appreciate them that are like, man, this isn't fair. Like, you're ruining people's exploration of the game to force us to go into this region. I want to emphasize again, play the game however the hell you want. You're welcome to write in about whatever you want. I prefer you don't spoil story stuff later on and whatnot, but if you just beelined it straight to the south, I bet you're still interacting with some systems and you can write in for the deepest dive. So we don't want to limit what you're doing and what you want to do in the heart of your hearts.
You don't have to get the rules from MinnMax. It's okay.
Thank you.
You can live your own way.
That's right.
Also, I've got some stories about how I ended up in completely different parts of the map too.
Ooh.
So like,
oh, totally.
It's hard. It is hard to stay in one place.
Yeah, absolutely. Jacob, most common comment. What do you think?
I think people are talking about the depths this week. I think that's the big point of discussion.
That's tough because people definitely did write in about the depths. I don't know if it was the far and away most common comment. Leo, what do you think?
Depths is a good one. Yeah. I don't know. I'm getting one-shot killed a lot.
Okay, we had one comment
that wasn't
about
just
that.
me.
No, it's not just you. I believe the most common comment was people really wanting to talk about the rock roast for the Goron City and talk about what is going on with the rock roast.
Have you guys heard about this marbled rock roast? I think it might be a bad news, guys.
Yeah, I know it's bad news, but everyone else, like, everybody would try it, right? Like if someone put a real,
good.
It does look really good. I've never wanted to suck on a rock
like,
before. Yeah, it seems delicious. It looks a little like rare for me. It's kind of like a glowing red rock. Like if I could have a well done rock roast, I feel like I'd be really into it.
It was so disappointing when you pick one up and it's like a giant heavy object. Like you can't put it in your inventory.
Yeah, what are they doing? Jacob Geller, since you haven't been on this show so far, what do you think about this game overall for everything you've experienced?
I mean, it's like we talked about it on the podcast last week a little, so it's like I'm as glowing as everyone else. I think the defining thing for me talking about it, at least in like a deepest dive format, is I just kind of decided that I'm not fast traveling, and that has kind of like in the opening of the game, it almost didn't feel like a choice. It was like, why would I fast travel? I'm just going out. And in this section, my like play has like, I have been doing more things specifically because of that have led to some like very interesting places and experiences and whatever. So like, I really like, I kind of wished that I didn't fast travel in Breath of the Wild. And so I'm like taking the opportunity to live my dreams here. And it's, I think it's just kind of bringing out everything that is cool about the game even more so.
Yeah. Are you doing it for like any headcanon lore stuff? Or is it just like, this is just a good excuse to explore the world in a unique way?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like fast travel virtually always kind of breaks the reality of the world, even though like I know it is technically in canon here.
Sure.
But it's more just like, I want to preserve, looks like a cool thing over there. I'm going to go to it as much as possible. And when you're kind of like bouncing between points without walking the line in between, I think it gets easier to like miss that stuff.
I kind of get it. Alex the Snood here wrote in, said, I think it was Jacob and Haley on the MinnMax show who mentioned not using fast travel, and I've started to do the same. Walking everywhere has helped me enjoy the game even more, so I want to re-echo their suggestions to stop using it. I get that.
That being said, I ain't walking. I'm driving my little car all over Hyrule.
I was going to ask how you handle that kind of traversal, because it does get a little old. The areas are kind of sparse to just run across. Do you have a car you rely on for long periods, or are you constantly building new ones?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the horses, because generally I feel like they stop you from like, I'm on a horse for like 30 seconds and I just get off and climb a cliff and the horse like can't get up there.
Yeah.
But does the car not stop you with that too, though?
Well, the car feels more like I can just pull out the car anywhere, whereas the horse, I have to like go back to a stable to get another one. But truly just like all those little like Hyrule restoration building piles, just get a plank, put 2 of the normal wagon wheels on the back, and then 2 of the like Zonai small wheels on the front.
Yeah.
The small wheels are really fast, and with a steering stick on it, you just have like a little go-kart. And as long as you're going over kind of the defined horse trails or whatever of the game, it can go really fast.
I don't think I have the small wheels yet.
Yeah, I've never seen the small wheels, and also it sounds like you have the ability that I don't have yet and don't know how to get if you're pulling out your car anywhere.
Well, here's...
Oh, no, I'm not using that one, even though I do. It's generally just kind of like where I have it. You really don't have... I feel like the small wheels are a pretty common... They're not particularly small. They're just not the huge monster truck ones.
I don't think I have them either, Kelsey. I mean, I got to dig through. That's the beauty and kind of the downside of this game is you have so many toys at this point. I feel like kid on Christmas morning of like, I'm just going to play a little bit with all of them, but I can't even comprehend how many potential toys I have here to play with. So thank God I have the shrines to try and tutorialize some of those things. I'm like, oh, I see why that thing's cool now. I get it.
Yeah, I have so many. I feel like I've picked up so many random things where I'm like, I found a mirror the other day, and I'm like, I know this is probably really cool and useful for like directing sunlight onto things, and I just haven't played around with it at all, and it's so hard to like feel like you have really played with every toy that the game gives you.
Yeah, I do. I'm loving the game, obviously. I put in like about 20 hours or so. And I know that the Switch clock is weird, but I'm capturing all my footage, so it's easier at the end just to like drop it in a timeline and be like, okay, this is how much it was. But I still feel like at this point, like I feel like I'm one of those weirdos that's using 10% of their brain, which I guess is all of humanity according to that old wives' tale. But that idea, it's every way that I play this game, I do just feel like, God, I'm feeling more and more guilt about, I feel like I could be just upending everything I'm doing here. And I've kind of just found my groove and I'm happy in it. And I'm enjoying the game so much that hopefully that'll overwhelm that feeling of like, I don't even want to glance to see what the rest of the internet is doing because I'm going to be put to shame for my stupid contraptions I'm building here.
Yeah, I kind of feel that. It's nice like doing this type of thing, not shutting yourself off to the other people that are playing it and getting to like learn from them and learn from clips and stuff.
Yeah.
But in my general gameplay, there is one type of vehicle I really rely on for sure. It's the wing on top of the cart for launching with a fan in the back and a steering control in the front. And it covers so much ground so fast and I really love it. It's a really slick little thing.
If you don't want to use that, have you heard that tip about how to launch the wings just using recall? So you technically don't need anything. You don't need like a way to launch them technically because you can just use your recall to put them in the air, then bring them back down. It's like, right, you're good to go.
Right, that's cool.
Austin Walker, and they were streaming over at Waypoint, and he had this little wing thing. He had a little wing thing that was really interesting where they were going into the depths before they had the paraglider, but like you can't drop down there right away because you'll die. So they're trying to figure out like, what can I make to slow me down? And it turns out like they tried riding a wing, but it was like too unstable and it was like trying to like ram into the walls. But then since they're kind of like clover shaped, they took 3 of the wings and put them all nose to nose. God. And then stood on top of that and it like perfectly evened out and just made like an elevator slowly going down to the depths for them. It's like, it's amazing.
Leo, I really like when you have one of those like cart fan wing things and the wing eventually disappears and then all of the parts that were attached to the wing just go like they just kind of like fly off in front of you with the momentum.
Yeah.
Mason Cowell wrote in and they said, quick tip. A fast, easy build is just 2 fans with a control stick between them. Instant hover bike. And the best part, there's no fall damage when you inevitably come crashing down from the heavens on this thing. Wow. I hadn't considered that, but now I need to see that. That sounds
great. Like if
great.
you're still standing on the fans, it doesn't matter how far you fall from. You don't take fall damage.
That's weird.
Cool. I love doing this. I'm learning so much stuff in these discussions.
Right.
I know. I feel like we need a whole new segment just for basic tips because they're scattered throughout it. But Crease the Guy has one saying, hey, quick tip, everybody. And it's what you referred to, Kelsey. So this is hopefully just helpful for people. They say, quick tip, everyone needs to get the auto build ability as fast as they can. Who here has the auto build? I'm curious. Jacob Geller, ladies and gentlemen. Jacob Geller is raising his hands. It makes building so much more streamlined. All you got to do is it's a small trek through the depths just south of the Lookout Landing and Hyrule Chasm. You follow the large statues that point to a main mine, and there's a familiar boss fight there. And it's very fun, goofy stuff. So basically, if you just go in that first depths area that you encounter, just south of the castle, just follow that a little bit. Apparently, that's how you get the auto build, and I guess that's a game changer. Like, Jeff, you're talking about, collecting apples, and the best way to get apples down from a tree. Somebody wrote in with that idea of like, if you auto build something, you can get those apples a lot easier. And so it seems like it secretly will help a lot of things. Are you using it a lot, Jacob Geller?
Not really, actually, because if you have all the parts there, then it will just make it. If you don't, it can actually make some of the parts out of like the Zonai ore resource.
What?
But I like don't want to use a resource. And usually the things that I'm building are so simple that I can make them in like 5 seconds. And so like it's not that big of a deal. But I did see that Apple clip someone posted on Reddit where essentially what they did, it's like it is truly big brain logic, is they stuck together just like 20 apples, and then the game remembered that as a construction, which is 20 apples stuck together. So then you just take the auto build and you walk through an orchard, and it's like grabbing all the apples to make the construction. It's so funny.
How the hell? I mean, the more I play this game, it is just this feeling of just being amazed by that development team. And again, just hoping they do 300 more interviews about it, because it's like, I don't know how this team did it. I don't know how they pulled this off. Like, I want to meet them. I don't know if any other team on Earth could pull off something like this. And listening to the Triple Click podcast, Kirk Hamilton had a good point on there where he's talking about like, it's pretty rare. I know it happens, but it's pretty rare for us to get a quote unquote iterative sequel from Nintendo. Normally they release a game on a console, wait for the next console, shake up the gameplay and move on. But it's pretty rare just to have that core team be like, all right, what ideas were on the chopping block? Let's try it again. Let's refine it. And to have the classic leap of qualities that video games normally get in the sequel, like we don't really get to see it from Nintendo because they're kind of rewriting the rules. And like Mario Galaxy 2 is the cleanest example, and that's also a masterpiece. But it did make me think of like, obviously I'm happy. Hey, personally, I'm happy with Nintendo's output over the last 30 years. But at the same time, it is like, how many great games have we been robbed of because they never want to just quickly have that same core team develop something new once they're super familiar with the tech and gameplay.
That's like Majora's Mask, right?
Yep, yeah.
Like, isn't that kind of which is tons of people's favorite Zelda?
Yeah, that's another good example for sure.
It's also crazy that we don't get a lot of kind of toy box games like this set in a world that you actually want to spend that much time in. Either like you had like, I guess the closest is Banjo and Kazooie's Nuts and Bolts, but it's like, who wants to? I don't want to play with Banjo and Kazooie that long. Like it's such a cool. It's so cool to have this kind of toy box in a Zelda game where it's like, yes, I love these characters. I've been playing with them for 30 years. It's nice to just be able to unpack all my toys in that kind of world.
Right. Yeah, it's a great way of looking at it for sure. Were you struggling to make it through this section, Jeff?
Yeah, I did all the Death Mountain and Fire Temple stuff last night.
Oh wow!
And
okay.
everything before then, it was kind of I haven't been fast traveling that much, but when I did all of the Rito Village stuff, I kind of just like hopped in a sky tower and sky dove across most of it to get there, and so like the first couple days after the last deepest dive was just like going back to Lookout Landing and then just walking the paths that I should have done and doing all of that kind of extra content. And so I spent a lot of time just kind of catching up what I didn't do last time.
I know. Same thing. Yeah, I streamed.
And then getting lost all over the north and the northwest, and just every time I try be like, okay, I gotta get to Death Mountain or whatever. I gotta get to Goron City and do that stuff. It's like, oh, but first I'll do the Sky Tower, and then these shrines are here. I'm not going to walk past a shrine, and then there's some crazy person with a side quest, and there's a well. I'm not going to not jump into a well when I see a well, and it's just like constant, payoff after payoff of doing random, satisfying stuff.
Yeah, Brady G writes in, they say, how do y'all decide what to focus on when you pick the game up? I decided to put my focus first on getting all the sky towers to fill out the whole map first, then try to get all the dragon tiers, and then do the shrine cleanup. Are you meandering more in what you do, or do you have a system? I love the towers more than anything. Like that is my happy spot, is like trekking my way up to a tower and then just having that epiphany of like, all right, now I'm up in the sky, I can do whatever I want, and let me scout out the shrines from there and kind of pick it off. But it does make me think about like Jacob Geller's situation. And by the way, Jeff Mark, you can just call him Jacob. You don't have to call him Jacob Geller every time. I don't know why you keep insisting on it, but Jacob, as his friends call him. But it does make me question, like, oh, am I robbing myself of some of that experience? Because every time when I'm like, okay, where to next? I'm like, all right, I'll just fast travel to the tower, shoot up the top, and then take a look again, and then just dive that way, then dive that way. And it's kind of fun, but maybe it does make it feel a little bit too mechanical. But like, I love that feeling of, obviously it's a big charm of this game, is feeling like you're getting away with stuff, being a little stinker, cheating the system, breaking the system in a way that the developer is secretly excited for you to do. But just stuff like going from the tower, I guess it was, I'm trying to remember where it was exactly, but going from very up high, diving down into Goron City for the first time, like that is one of my favorite experiences. And it's so rare because of the structure of this game to have that feeling of just like dive bombing into the new city and then it's like, boosh, 3-point landing in the middle of the town. Then it's like, I could go anywhere. It's so weird to have a town that you enter and like the designers aren't able to be like, well, obviously they're coming from this direction, so let's set up the core conflict of the village here, and then people will be asking for your help here. So it's just this feeling of just like surrounded by Gorons and just like, where do I go? Who wants to talk? Who's got a quest for me? It's such a cool, rare thing to be able to attack any situation from any angle. So maybe the Sky Towers thing is maybe it works out. But yeah, does anybody else have a system here?
I found myself trying to beeline to shrines too much. I do like the shrines, but I think the point I was frustrated at during this chunk was when I would try to explore somewhere and I would get one shot at it and be like, well, I should have just gone to a shrine instead. Like that would have been a better use of my time. But I finally am past that. After like 10 hearts, I feel like I do fine in combat. So now I am getting to meander more and enjoying that and just following stuff that sounds fun. Like everything I've done at the stables for the newspaper so far has been fun. So I'm just like seeking out those smoke clouds, those horse heads from afar, and just looking at the map for areas I haven't filled in at all yet. Just like, oh, if I fast travel here, then I can walk this long stretch and clear everything out. Yeah.
Have you done the, did you do the one in the far northeast for the stable with the fortune-telling chicken?
Yes.
Okay. The all-cucking cuckoo, is that what they call that thing?
Oh my God.
It's very good. It's very good.
It is good.
It is good.
Look, I have fairly severe ADHD, and this game is it doesn't lend well to like trying to stick to a system. So I'm kind of a combination of all of those things. I mean, I definitely do find myself going back to the Sky Towers and kind of doing what you're doing, Ben, where it's just like, when in doubt, I just kind of go to one and like look at everything from above again and be like, okay, Is there like Skyland stuff I haven't done? Sorry, we have to call them that now, Jacob. You weren't here for it, but we're legally bound to. Of course. Okay, great. But yeah, I mean, I definitely like anytime I see a distraction, like whether it's a shrine or just like, random like person with a side quest or just like something looks interesting over there, I do it. And I usually the reason I've been able to get through this northeast area and be like ready for this is basically just because I took a day to be like, okay, today is Fire Temple Day or whatever, and like I'm just gonna do it. But other than that, I mean, I am at some point I think I'm gonna have to probably start strategizing, because the like do whatever randomly like eventually gets it gets more and more difficult to uncover new things. Like you have to have a little bit of a plan in order to make sure you're not just retreading the same areas over and over again, but hasn't really come up for me yet. So I've just been being pretty random about it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I'm enjoying the exploration so much that I am dreading that idea of like, oh, eventually I'm gonna get to the point where I'm just kind of re-exploring these things to be like, okay, I forgot I could technically have gone further in this cave and those types of small things, but that's a problem for me in the fall when I'm going back to try and wring even more out of this game, am I blowing it by not doing too many side quests? Like, I want to go explore the world, and every time I have done a side quest, it's been fine. I haven't done one yet that's completely blown me away. Like, I did like there's the two lizards up in the northeast part of the map, and they're hunting each other. And it's like, okay, you can go get that treasure in there and you get the mask from that. But like, I feel like it's rare that I've done a side quest and been so impressed by like either the story content or the reward to make it feel worth it. It seems like the point is just the story quest is just an excuse for you to explore the world more, which is what I want to be doing. So am I just skipping that step, or am I blowing it by not doing some of these?
No, I think it's like, the cool thing about the map is like, hey, there are two lakes that look like lizards.
Right.
And then like, I thought that was fun when I saw that there were two lakes that looked like lizards.
Exactly.
And then, and then the side quest is like, whatever, it's going into a cave. But when I'm playing the game, I'm just going into caves anyway. So like, it was not greater or lesser. It was just like they pointed out a cave that maybe I wouldn't have found otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, the goals you set for yourself are going to be more satisfying. Certainly, that's my point of view. But I like it because you can just accept every single side quest and get a little bit of flavor about what's going on around you, and then still do your own thing, and you'll like accidentally complete them.
Yep.
Going through finding a thing in the eye of the skull in the northeast.
Yes.
It like checked off something in my quest log, and I was like, oh, I wasn't thinking about that at all. I just saw this and wanted to go here.
Oh,
but
that's funny.
It's extra fun to be like, oh yeah, I'm chipping away at those little checkboxes still.
Yeah, that one in particular, I don't think I got that quest. But I was so excited that I happened to go in the eye of the skull, and I guess I'll keep that a secret. But it's the one time I've been super excited about getting an item for like, oh, I look cool now. For the first time in this game, I actually look cool wearing this. Does anybody else look cool? How's your look doing, everybody?
Wait, well, I just want to say it's like keeping things secret is, I don't know. I don't want to reveal things, but I also can't remember where I got stuff.
Sure.
I don't know. Look, I found a fierce deity mask.
Oh, that was it. Okay.
It's like, okay, well, yeah, he looks cool as hell.
Yeah, he does look cool. And plus, I got
a good blanket useful one too. It's like attack up.
Yep.
And the first headgear I found, honestly, after all this time.
My outfit has been fierce deity mask, I think like climbing torso, and then underground I found these light up pants. Ooh. That just like cast a little light around you. And so Link is just walking everywhere with these like kind of bell bottom glowing pants and a fierce deity mask, and it's very funny.
Nice. I got the shirt. We should trade. The glowing shirt.
I have some pants that make me look like I'm not wearing pants, with most of the like upper, like it's just very short, and so most of the things you put on top make it just look like I'm not wearing pants, and I've been enjoying that. But I have a really cool, I can't remember exactly where I found it, but it was somewhere in the Northeast generally, that is a like hot weather attack up thing, but it's just like really sweet horns and face paint.
That sounds great. Yeah, because like the other one that helps you in the warm weather, I think it's from that lizard quest where it's just kind of like the lizard metallic cone-shaped mask. I'm like, it looks so weird.
Yeah, I don't like the masks as much.
Unless it's a fierce deity. That's the only one that I'm super excited about. Yeah,
because it's still his face.
It's still his face. Yeah, and he's got the cool hat on him again, of course. But yeah, for me, I was really excited to find soldier armor. And so that's what I've been wearing. And I got to that point where I also like took all the masks and helmets off. So like, I want this mullet to flow and just run around as Link wearing the soldier armor. But that was like underneath Hyrule Castle, which I think we'll get into a little bit later. I don't know if everybody else has gone there, but it looks really cool just to finally have that armor. But then I made the mistake of like, all right, doing my tower strategy. Let's keep going to the northeast. And then just being like, what? Like, it's the first time in the game that I took off the like flying help, like the little wingsuit booster thing. So like when you skydive and you don't have that again, it's like, oh my God, I feel so useless just plummeting to the earth now. Jeff, what are you wearing, man?
Mostly I switch between the climbing, like sleeveless rocker dude top and still the flying one. I gotta get pants. The only pants I have are the like winter ones, and I felt so gross going through all of the super hot cave stuff while wearing winter pants. But it's either that or just like the skirt that you start with, like the skirt tunic, bottom. And it's like, I don't want to go around, free balling it. I want something on. It's like, so I guess I'm wearing super warm pants this entire time.
He should be.
Did any of y'all buy the heat guard clothes?
I did for
just
the shirt.
top, just enough to like, just enough to survive it.
Yeah, I'm always confused by that. Like, how advantageous is it to go the full suit? Because like I just bought the shirt and I was like, I'm fine. I think everywhere I want to go. So why would you need the full regalia?
I think you can either like stand in literal fire or like fire attacks are less effective on you. Like when you look at your equip screen, it's got like a little bar that's like, if you're wearing one piece, it'll be like you have one of two like potential flame guard slots. Yeah. And I think if you have it like completely unlocked, then you could just be in fire. But
but it is confusing because I ended up in like a hot location in the other way, like desert hot, and I like put that on and it was like, nope, doesn't help you. Wearing like a welding suit does not help you in the desert.
That's interesting. How's everybody's financial situation? I feel like I'm finally at the point in this game where it's like, all right, I am now no longer like, bah, every time they say the price for clothes, whereas before it was like 700 rupees. Are you high? Like, I don't have that. And now I think I'm sitting at like 2,000 and it's like, okay, I got stuff in the bank. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Nice. I cashed out every single rupee I had to buy the Flame Guard top. And then just last night, I finally got enough topaz to sell to the lady who will only buy 10 at a time. And then I sold those, and then whatever the next, I think, rubies after that. So now I have like 3,000 all of a sudden.
Nice.
Yeah, it's definitely been up and down. It's a weird and interesting economy. Like at first, my wife was really complaining, like, I have no rupees. I've been playing for so long, and it's just you do not get a lot of rupees. But I guess collecting ore and selling those kind of things, I don't hate it. It's interesting that I'm actually thinking about currency in a game, in an open world game for once.
Yeah. Is it always fair game to sell the ore? I feel like I'm scared of like, am I going to need this at some point? Like I'm hoarding, I think like 3 diamonds, and I'm like, do I just keep these? I don't know.
Keep the diamonds because they can be used to make like really good weapons later. The only one I know of is that if you talk to the chief of the Rito village, he's like, I can make you a great eagle bow, and it requires 2 diamonds. And I think there's something like that for a lot of weapons. But yeah, I don't sell any ruby, sapphire, topaz, or diamond, mostly because I just really like making wands that like shoot ice and electricity and stuff. And it's very useful.
Yeah.
I've got like one of each, of like the magic rods of like a ruby, topaz, whatever. And then I kind of sell them after that. Although I was in a really hairy situation the other day, and I put a topaz on an arrow and shot it, and it was like an electrical nuke. Like it was, it's like I realized, I was like, okay, that was like a 200 rupee arrow that I just shot, but like it did get me out of a bind in a really
I love that. Like,
interesting way.
Yeah, I was fighting a boss, and it is like if you sort when you're in the arrow mode and you go to your inventory or whatever, you can sort it by like fuse power. Like diamonds always at the top. And it is that idea of like, God, it'd be so cool if I was confident enough just to strap a diamond to this arrow and let it rip, but I can't.
Yeah, it's a weird side effect of the design where like everything has 5 uses. Like whether an NPC wants it randomly, because any NPC can want any random thing. I keep like regretting shooting stuff out of my bow because I need it later. Or for armor upgrades or other surprises, it like always feels wrong to sell them. But I do because I know I'm going to get more, right? Like the gems and stuff, especially since I've been in the depths, the gems are coming at a lot higher of a rate.
Yeah. Is it worth it, do you think, to go for that great eagle bow? Like the idea of spending my diamonds on something that's going to be damaged, like unless it's indestructible, like I don't know if I want it.
I don't know if it's indestructible. I imagine it's probably one of the hardiest things in the game. If you're putting 2 diamonds on it, I sure hope so. But I guess I don't know. I still have yet to find a second diamond. Otherwise, I Like, I've been trying to get that bow for forever, but I still only have 1 diamond.
There was another Goron who will make some kind of rock crusher giant sword for 3 diamonds.
Ooh.
And some other resources. But yeah, I have unclenched a lot in terms of like, okay, I'm just going to use the weapons I have, like even the good ones, they're going to break. That's fine. I'm going to use all the consumables I have, but spending a ton of, resources on to build like a legendary weapon that's just going to break on me is still like one step too far over that line for me. I don't think I can do it.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know what. So the like legendary weapon that I have that I just like stumbled upon is in that there's the lake to in the northeast that has like a big kind of bone looking. It's like a thing that looks like a set of ribs or like a spine that's just sticking straight out. And if you go down the top of that, you end up in the depths. And you're in this like really weird place and you have to dig your way out of a lot. And then at the end of it, I found a big Goron sword, like from Ocarina of Time. And it's like, it doesn't say this is the one from Ocarina of Time, but it was like that, clearly that. And I have been kind of scared to use it because I'm like, this seems cool. I don't want it to just break when I'm hitting a moblin.
I still
How
have
much damage does it do?
It does. I think it does like base 30 and then you can attach stuff to it. So I did.
Oh my gosh.
My favorite thing to attach to things is the little bone arms because it's both very funny and they do a lot of damage. And so I like put a bone arm on the big Goron sword and suddenly it was doing like 65. And it was just like whacking people with it.
I do love it. It's such a weird idea that like, oh yeah, skeletal arms, secretly the most powerful thing to fuse onto any weapon. So they're dangling off everything.
Or you fuse 2 of them together for 40 damage. I was doing one boss fight and I was using all of my, like boulder weapons because I figured, well, it's made out of rocks, spoilers, so I want to be using those. And I was just grinding on his health bar for so long until I broke all of them. And then I was like, well, I guess I'll use the 2 skeleton arms to get fused arms because that's the only other thing I didn't have that wouldn't immediately ignite on fire. And like, I blew through the last quarter of his health bar so fast. It was like, oh, why wasn't I using this the entire, like, it's OP. Those skeleton arms. I gotta go farm skeletons.
Rich Carrasco writes in over on Patreon that said, it's this portion of the game where I got my head around the fuse mechanic. Based on the previous demos, I thought you could only fuse your weapons to other weapons, and the monster parts were there to add effects to your bow and arrow attacks. Then I noticed the diamond material and the monster horn sitting in my inventory had super high attack fuse numbers. That's when it clicked that I needed to fuse my swords to the material parts to give them a huge upgrade. Am I the only one who missed this? I certainly hadn't done it yet. In my mind, it's just fuse is weapon on weapon done. But I guess that's.
I love it. It makes the random boss moblin encounters, like the side slightly bigger guys you see everywhere, so much more worth it because you definitely get like a nice big horn from them that you can make a great weapon out of that'll last for a while. It's an interesting way to make everything useful, and it's like. We've seen that type of thing before, right? If you get this resource from this thing, but you normally have to like take it to a workbench and then craft it with extra currency to make it modified that way. And it is cool how streamlined and open-ended that same kind of idea is here.
I've like marked locations on my map of like, this is where a strong like, group of moblins are. And, next time there's a blood moon or whatever, like come back here and just get the one I really like is I think it's the black moblin, like, is it the heart? It's just like it looks like a durian. It's just a big, like, spiky thing, but I think it adds like 25 damage to a weapon. And so I've just been making hammers out of that. It's been fantastic, but they're hard to find. So yeah, every time I see one now, I like mark it on my map, like go check this place later so you can get that item again.
It's cool, sometimes we talked about it's like every item has like 5 uses, but sometimes when you kill a big boss, there is something on the ground that as far as I know you can't pick up and you can only fuse. It's like the stone talus's heart. you know, is like that's not like an item you can put in your inventory, but you can stick it on a sword or whatever. And so it feels like when you finish, they're like, we're telling you this is for a strong sword. You know, don't try to sell it. Don't put it in a potion. Just stick it on your sword and you will have a very strong sword for a while.
That's smart. By the way, shameless plug, if you're enjoying this conversation on YouTube, subscribe to us on YouTube, please. Or unlock the podcast version, patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. That's how we keep this whole thing operating. Kelsey, I wanted to ask you, King Blunkers has a question. Say, has anyone checked out the Royal Hidden Passage from Lookout Landing? Have you gone in there yet?
The Royal Hidden Passage.
Oh, okay. So this is, I think, at the very end of it, there is another diamond. I think that's where I got mine. So if you're jonesing just for one diamond. So they say it was a thrilling feeling of claustrophobia, knocking down boulders, blocking a path, only to go deeper and find 2 more paths that I had to unblock. By the end of it, I had no sense of how deep into the ground I had traveled. The game continues to blow my mind at the scale of how much game there is to play, even just beyond exploring a starting area. Yeah, this was the depths I've like dabbled in. I think you're kind of forced to dabble a little bit more in this overall section, but so far, my depths have been that Royal Passage. Like, so if you go to like your basic home base, right? On the northern side of that, there's that person, I think her name is Jaren, and she's like, there's weird noises coming from beyond the wall. I don't know what that is.
I went down there and unlocked the little, like, the evil statue that you trade hearts for.
Yep.
You can, like, switch around. Wait, it just goes further? Is that what you're saying?
It goes for so long. It is ridiculous. I used all my bomb arrows.
After I found the
You need to go back. Because like I used all my bombs. I went and I got more bombs, Zonai bombs, set off those time bombs, going through this for so long. How deep can this go? This is bananas. And then eventually be like, I had to tap out. And then once I got the Goron, I was like, oh my God, it's unlimited bombs. So I went back there. And then that was just hours and hours and hours was just blowing stuff up. And it is ridiculous how far it goes. It's awesome.
I assume you know this. I'm just saying it so the audience knows that like any like hammer weapon can break those rocks.
Oh,
like
I didn't know that.
You don't need to use bomb. Like, you know, in the first tutorial when it's like attach a boulder to your sword and then you can knock down the stone. That works with. There's some really hard rocks, but for almost all of them, you can just like whack it with a blunt type weapon and they'll break.
Well, I know that was tutorialized to me, Jacob, but I chose to forget that. So instead, I could accidentally blow myself up over and over and over again.
That's great.
Hey, by the way,
the Goron does make it way easier when you've got him.
Yeah, absolutely. He does say, why me? But other than that, I think it's fine.
No, it's why'd you do it?
Why'd you do it, sir?
Why'd you do it?
You're just smashing him against rocks over and over again. It's like, why'd you do it?
One Wade Wojcik wrote in, who you might recognize from the deepest dive on Halo. Wade says, by the way, Wade, way overdid it on the character count, so I trimmed this a bit, so please forgive me. Wade says, I've heard many people, including myself, repeat how effective the game is at distracting you from your chosen objective over and over again until it's hours later and you've forgotten what you originally set off to do. I believe this speaks to how well Tears keeps players meaningfully engaged at all times, something that is extremely rare even among S-tier games. We all said Breath of the Wild was a landmark game, a once-in-a-generation game, which is becoming clearer with each hour of play. It'll be harder to argue Tears hasn't surpassed Breath of the Wild in almost every way. I'm feeling that way. As I love this game more and more, we talked about on the main podcast a little bit, Jacob Geller, but I am curious, like going back to Breath of the Wild, if it'll just feel like it's amazing, but I miss my tools. I would think every other Zelda game, it feels like, can you imagine playing another Zelda game without having Ascend now? Be like, what is this crap? I don't want to do this.
It feels,
I don't want to play anything without it.
I know.
Yep.
I keep thinking about, when I think about Breath of the Wild, I think about the power Cryonis, which I think I used like once every 5 hours in that game. It was like, oh, there's a body of water. Okay, I'll very slowly hop over with this thing. And it's like how just specific and limited that feels compared to anything that you have in this game. You know, it's like my least used power I use 20 times as often as that. And it's like, you know, I liked having bombs at any time. But again, it just feels so like imagination limited. It's just like, yes, you can have a bomb and then you can throw the bomb and then it blows up compared to any of the powers that you've got here.
Dawson writes in and says, I get it now. After having bounced off Breath of the Wild half a dozen times, I feel pulled into the world of Tears of the Kingdom, whether it's the unbounded creativity given to the player in creating solutions to problems, or I am simply more open to this type of game design due to finishing Elden Ring last year. I am loving everything Zelda has to offer.
I'm 100% there with that person.
Really?
It is so different. And I talked about it when I was streaming it last Thursday. But it's like, as I was playing it and I was enjoying it so much, I thought, man, should I go back to Breath of the Wild after this? Because I'm liking it so much more. And I realized after thinking about it for like 30 seconds, like, absolutely not, because I would just feel grounded the entire time. Like, I don't know how someone in the chat at the same time asked if they should play Breath of the Wild first. And I was like, no, just skip right to this one. And then someone was like, you might want to, just because it would be so hard going back to Breath of the Wild if you played this one first. And I feel like this is such a surprisingly huge step up from the last game, which everyone loved to begin with. It's very impressive. I can't say enough nice things about this game.
Really? So you're saying better than Horizon Forbidden West?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Don't tell my wife.
All right.
But I like all these. I like the toys. I like building stuff.
Yep.
This is definitely my kind of game for that kind of thing. I got a real weak spot for goofy fun.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Jot writes in on Patreon to say, for creative types, I'm sure Tears of the Kingdom is amazing, but as someone who is as creative as a lobster, it's not for me. So Jot says, you're wrong, Jeff, on building stuff is bad.
I mean, that's the flip side of it, certainly.
That's the thing, though. It's like, you still can just play Breath of the Wild inside this.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, all those systems are still there, and there are plenty of ways to get around without having to build anything.
Plus, it's like...
Yeah, I feel like so much of the Ultra Hand ability for me is not necessarily even really like building things so much as it is just like moving things around and maybe occasionally attaching them to something else, but like not... Like, I'm not constructing a lot of things in the way that you might like construct a Lego set or whatever. Like, it's more like I need a long thing to make a bridge, or like I need to move this up into the air so that then I can use recall to get on it and move me. Like, it's not... I think there are things in here that like sound like they might be for creative people, but you can just not build with them.
Yeah. Also, I've been amazed at like how much the game is giving you pre-built things. Of like, you know, the great easy example is like, you know, the boss on top of Death Mountain, where it's like, oh, I have to build like a plane and battle this thing. It's like, no, there's just going to be a plane sitting right there. I feel like
they're going to be 4 planes.
Exactly. It's like, whatever, just take all this, have fun. Like, you can dodge building in a lot more of this game than I was anticipating.
And plus, even like on the creativity front, stuff like that, you're just like, you know how to build that now.
Yeah.
It gives it to you, and you see every piece in it. You can so easily recreate it without having to think at all. But it is nice how on stuff like the Korok challenges too, of like, I need to get to my friend, you look around and there's like a few objects that you can string together to make a vehicle for them. And then you can choose to add your own little spin on it with your own devices, but you really don't have to.
And when in doubt, just, you know, get a bunch of rockets out of Zonai Gachapon machines and use those for everything.
Shoot up.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
There was
Shield.
There was one Korok guy there who needed to get to the top of a cliff, and they put rockets there. And I was like, well, they probably want me to put them, you know, like attach them to a platform or something and put him on there. But then I noticed there was a stone that was perfectly angled, like aiming up at the, so I just had to put the rocket on there and it was perfectly aimed. And it's like, all right, you guys want me to strap this poor guy onto a rocket and shoot him. And he completely overshot it. But it was an easy walk to get to him after that. Yeah.
I saw a video on Reddit of someone who, it was like one guy's on top of the cliff, guy on the bottom of the cliff wants to get up. The guy went up to the top of the cliff, threw a piece of meat off at the Korok at the bottom, attached the Korok to the piece of meat, and then recalled it, and he just flew upwards. What's kind of amazing is like the it's not that you can do amazing stuff if you want to put in the time to like build a rocket ship, you know, the kind of Kerbal Space Program. Like I spent 100 years and I built a Gundam. Like It's like you just gotta be smart. And I just keep seeing different ways that people are smart in a way that like is lazy in the most entertaining, creative way.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, my story about when we get to it, my Fire Temple story is just a feat of being too lazy, which is actually probably more work.
Yes, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Through things.
Scott Castro writes in on Patreon. They say, "Someone please reassure me that I'm not the only dum-dum out there that has just straight up carried a Korok directly to his friend using only Ultra Hand. Please, anyone?"
Scott, I've certainly done that.
Yep, I've started to do it, and I thought, no. I need to try to make a car. I need to try to do something. It just feels
walk
so
of
simple.
shame.
Yeah, but you can do it.
Have you all got the horse towing hitch?
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
It's just kind of like a piece of wood that you drag behind your horse, but then you can attach things to it. And I think the idea is like you make a cart and you pull the cart, you know, with the towing hitch, but you can't just attach the Korok directly to this piece of wood. And so then he's like pumping over the ground.
That's amazing. Scotty Rocky writes in to say, "This game doesn't get enough credit for how funny it is. Very rarely does video game writing get me to laugh out loud. However, I've caught myself multiple times in this game laughing out loud, not for the writing, but just the mechanics. The most recent was when I was trying to reunite Korok, so I built an elaborate flying contraption and got a little heavy-handed with the rockets. The result was the Korok disappearing into the sunset and his friend 100 yards away looking disappointed." Beautiful. Yeah, it is true. Like it does make you laugh so much. It's such a simple, stupid thing, but it still makes me laugh every time I use Ascend and go up someplace and Link just pokes his head up and it's like, nope. And just like going back down into the depths, like that will just suddenly crack me up, even if no one is in the world to see it happen.
Have y'all done the dog?
Yeah.
Have y'all done the like BattleBot shrine that has the little ground drones with the weapons around? Super cool shrine. It's one that takes all your weapons and stuff away, so you have to use the resources there. And it's frustrating at first because they do so much damage and you have no armor and they have super long range or whatever. But then you figure out there's so many different ways to do it. And a point where I really laughed really hard was getting like the secret best weapon in that shrine, this like laser gun Zonai gadget I haven't seen anywhere else yet, and attaching it to a BattleBot and then like trying to stay behind it as it like turns around and finds its enemy and like jumping away as it accidentally shoots at you and then flips over and trying to flip it back safely. Like the idea that thing is so dangerous to both you and the enemies. It was so funny.
I'm totally that one actually annihilated me because I also put like a rocket launcher on that same thing, and so it was absolutely that idea of just like staying close to this thing, but then trying to dodge it and hoping it steered the right direction. But I was more scared of this thing that I had built than even the enemies were at that point.
It on backwards at first on accident. It would like shoot right back at me.
Yeah, it's just a mess.
There's a similar one where they take all your stuff that is just like a gradual build to like Mad Max, where they start you with like a very weak enemy and like a Segway, and you just drive your little car into it, and then they keep giving you bigger wheels and more spikes until at the end you are driving like a monster truck and just like plowing through a crowd of robots.
Oh, that's so good. The big wheel stuff was interesting. Like, first time I tried building one of those, like, oh, I see there's big arrows on this for a reason, because like one of the wheels was going the wrong direction. I was like, what is happening to my car? Oh, I see, there's a very logical reason. And then like there's so much lava in this section. I feel like some of the shrines are trying to teach you like, use the big wheels to go through more lava than you realize. And like navigating lava, I don't know if I was underthinking it or overthinking it, but I was always like, okay, do I need to like cool the space in front of me? Like I have the wing, and I'll just ride the lava on the wing, but then put the hydrant on the front to like cool the land a little bit in front of me. And then I'll put 2 fans on the back. Like, I don't know if this is actually helping. It still seems a little bit janky.
Did it work?
Just take the
nice.
You take the one hydrant that they give you, you aim it, and then you just build unlimited bridge to wherever you're going.
Yep.
That's what I did.
Yep.
It is awesome, like making a bridge part and then like picking that up and trying to build a vehicle out of the like frozen lava.
Yeah. Let's see. They didn't submit a name, but sorry, they say, can we get Wind Temple thoughts from Ben and Jeffem since they've hopefully completed it by now? Yeah, that was freaking cool. I really enjoyed that area. Now I know what everybody's talking about with the icicle puzzles and the cannons and all that stuff. That was great.
Yeah. And there was one baby shrine that I wanted to bring up on that one. The Resident Evil laser shrine. Like, that's just straight out. It's impossible. Like, as I was going through it, they do the first lasers coming at me. I was thinking, oh, they're Resident Eviling me. And then I could not believe when you got to the third one and it's just the crosshatch. And it's like, this cannot be a coincidence.
But
like someone had to have watched that movie. And but that's
messed up that when you die,
it breaks my brain. Yes, it breaks my brain that like someone from Nintendo would even watch that stupid movie.
Well,
but it's such a ridiculous. It would be such a ridiculous coincidence if it was a coincidence.
I'm trying to remember.
The lasers are also in RE4, like in the game, so it could have been that.
Well, sure. Lewis K also has an alternate idea. Lewis K says, so someone in the design team loves Mission Impossible, right? Between the skydive at every tower, the climbing, and the fact that I ran into a shrine that had a laser hallway that Link had to jump, dodge, and maneuver around with Ultra Hand, somebody must really like Mission Impossibles.
But it just feels so much like the movie because it's exactly what the actor did in it too. It's like, okay, I'm going to jump over the first one, then I'm going to dodge the next one, and then I'm going to see them all coming at me and I'm going to swear because I can't. He didn't have the ascend power, so he was screwed. But.
The takeaway isn't that the developers of Zelda really like Resident Evil, the first movie. It's today I learned that Jeffem apparently was really impacted by the first Resident Evil movie.
Well, it was such a weird, I just couldn't believe that they actually went and did the third part of the thing that I would not expect in a Zelda game.
Yeah, but that one was ridiculous for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. Alex says, I feel much less lonely having Tulin following me around. His arrows are clutch, his ability is useful, and his attitude is wonderfully positive. He's also nice enough to stay out of the shrine so I can solve them all by myself. Atreus, he says. Yeah, Tulin, he's a little, look, he's upbeat. I know he's your main man, Kelsey. I don't want to put him down at all, but like, there are flavors of like, Tails in him. There's a little saccharine at times. I don't know.
Look, yeah. I was annoyed by Tulin, and then I met the Goro, and my God, I wished I was just with Tulin again.
Does anybody ever turn those ghosts off? Do you have the two?
I've never had them on ever.
Oh, really?
It's just, I occasionally, if it's like, I have to burrow a lot here, I'll use the Goron guy. But it's just not how I play open world games. I don't really even like having like a party when that's an option. I just like being on my own adventure.
Yeah, maybe it's just because I'm like, I don't even want to say lazy. Like, the game gives these to you. But like, there are two more tools for me to use. And as far as I'm concerned, like they go in that wheel along with everything else. Like, it's not... Yeah, I know like a gust of wind is not as useful as like Ultra Hand or whatever, but like I use them in my like traversing and building and like just figuring out what I'm doing. Like they're part of the tool set like everything else at this point.
Yeah, I use that gust of wind all the time.
Yep,
I mean, again, because I'm spending so much time just walking around that like having a little guy blow you some is very helpful.
Yeah,
and I just like how helpful Tulin, like not every now and then, but like pretty much every fight there, I'll be, like swarmed by moblins, and then, I'll be trying to aim up a shot and he'll just like dead eye like the last guy and, blow his corpse out of there. And it's like, that's all I want from sidekick. We've talked about it before, but like when you have sidekicks in characters, the best way to endear a character to you is to just make them useful in terms of the gameplay that's going on. And Tulin totally nails it for me.
I turn off the Goro sometimes because whenever you're driving or flying or anything, his little like targeting beam just obscures your vision, and it's very annoying. But then I turn him back on.
I could see that. And also if I like run into an area like a group of resources on the ground, and I just start spamming the button in order to pick them all up. But if he's standing there, sometimes he'll just like shoot off and explode when you don't.
What the hell?
Okay, okay, buddy.
Yeah, I wish there was a better way to activate those. I know the real estate on the controller is pretty used up, but it is that weird thing. Like, is this really what I have to do? Is I just have to run around and find him, especially if I'm on like a tiny little patch and he can't quite get on there. It's like, can I just not use his ability now? It seems weird.
Yeah, that didn't seem fun when I was doing it during the temple, and that made me not want to carry it into the main game. I wish I could, even if you could like do more by talking to them, I'd be more interested. Like, I don't know why you can't dismiss them after you press A to talk to them.
Yeah.
When there's only one option.
The bet is like when you start gliding, Tulin is immediately behind you. And so, like, that's, that's a plus. But, yeah, finding the Goro. And also, it's like, so presumably there are going to be 2 more of these? Like, we're going to end the game with just 4 ghosts running around with us?
I was so surprised by that. And I brought it up with my wife, and she didn't really think much of it. But the fact that you get your second ghost, and then I just assumed, like, okay, he's going to replace the other one. I'm going to have to choose which one is with me all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they were both running around just like attacking moblins for me. And I was like, this is sweet.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it caps it too. We don't know yet. But like, I mean, I was definitely expecting that I'd like have to turn on one at a time. And that was mostly going to be Tulin just because he's so useful in terms of like navigating. And then also Yunobo like will hit things sometimes too, like he will do some combat stuff, but I just feel like the arrow is infinitely more useful because you'll get like the critical hits and you'll get the like someone who's like on the ceiling or something like that and like needs to be hit out of the sky or the ceiling or something. I think he's much more useful in combat. But I feel like I've got both of them right now, but I definitely feel like if it is all 4, I'm going to start turning off a couple of them because that's a crowd. That's too much of a posse to roll with, I feel like. Yeah,
definitely. Uranus Monkey from Texas, of course, writes in. They say, how did you all defeat that Wind Temple boss? During my playthrough, I figured the only way to beat Colgera was to dive into his 3 crystallized formations across their body. However, after watching someone else fight the boss, they opted for shooting the crystals with arrows. I found this interesting that not only the game lets you tackle puzzles in the world with different routes and playstyles, but the boss battles as well. I do not recall this being the case in Breath of the Wild with the Blight Ganons. I used arrows primarily. And everyone was talking about how scary Colgera was and stuff for that Wind Temple boss, but I'm bad at games, and I think I died once. And I was like, this guy seems fine. You just shoot the arrows, and it seems all right. And that music is so good during that section.
Yeah, I actually did kill him on my first try, but I was shaking like a leaf the entire time. Like, I was just like, there's no way I'm going to get this time. Like, it felt, I feel like they just do a really good job of making the boss fights feel like very life or death, even though, obviously you can just try again if you die. Like, it's fine. But, I feel like more scared and overwhelmed, and it ends up being a good thing because like then you feel like a real sense of triumph over it. You're like, oh my god, that felt so hard, and I still did it. I'm sure it's not actually that hard, but it is a good job of like making me feel like it was really difficult.
Yep.
In the parlance of like speedrunners, I felt like I like 2-cycled that guy, because he flies straight up and they're all just in a row. And so I was just slowing down time, and I was like, arrow, arrow, arrow.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, it was, to me, it was almost anticlimactic because he looked so exciting. And I was like, well, surely I'll have to do something other than like shoot my bow in slow motion for this fight. And then I was like, no, that was all I did.
Yeah, the first one that I got on him, he was flying straight up, and then he just refused to do that. If I had been quicker, that would have been nice, but the rest of the time I just had to wait for him to shoot his spikes up, and it was like, okay, how do I get an angle on this guy? But a creative fight for ultimately what is very similar to many different fights, but just the amount of mobility that you have and control for the fact that you're in the air the entire time and trying to use your paraglider.
Well, here's my question though: if you don't pick up the paraglider, what does the game do? How do you?
You could not get to the Wind Temple, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, right.
It would be
unless you had just like 400 Zonai parts and you kept like building little flying things.
I really tried, Kelsey. By the way, I was streaming that entire section because I was dreading it because you said you spent half of your 20s trying to get up to the Wind Temple, and I was like, I think I can beat the system because everyone was talking about like the power of abilities and, actually creating a flying machine. So I spent so much time just trying to make flying machines to get up there faster. And I kind of shortcutted a couple spots, but by and large, it was fun. I liked that lead up to the Wind Temple a lot.
I don't think it was bad. And I feel like I should clarify when I said this last week, it's like, I don't think it was bad. I think I was just like not expecting it to take so long. And like, you know how when you're driving back from something, the way back is like way faster, feels way faster than the way there. Like that's what it was, is I just had no concept of how long it was going to take. So it felt like it took forever. And like, it just felt like, okay, I've gone up like, 3 ships now. Like I should be there now. Right. And then you look up and it's just like, oh my God, there's still so wild. Much. I didn't know the sky went this far up. So, I don't know. I feel like it's a cool section that just like, I feel like I needed warning that it was going to take that long or something.
Yeah, it was way long.
Yeah, it is a real 1-2 punch, and this one as well, of just like the lead up to those temples is always like a very involved thing, and then the temple itself ain't no quick run through the supermarket. Whatever I don't know what I'm saying for that.
Put it on a shirt. The one last thing about kind of that northwest section before we move on. I guess it's everywhere, but like I did not expect the game to have that satisfying level, and I don't think it was in Breath of the Wild, was it? Of like the frozen over puddles that you have to like jump a couple times on the ice to break through, because that's like genuinely top 10 best things about life are those like halfway frozen puzzles that feel really cool to like crack through. You know what we're talking about? Like ideal puzzles. I'm sorry, puddles. I don't like puzzles. Did I really?
Yes.
I just, every time I've said the word puzzle throughout the last 5 years of my life, I meant to say puddle. So if everyone could just kind of retroactively make that work.
And you were mad at that Spider-Man game.
That's right.
With all the puzzles.
It's too many puzzles.
I don't think I ever jumped multiple times on a nice thing to break it. That sounds really satisfying. In the climb up, I was like, maybe I'll get hurt free falling into this ice shelf, but come on, it would feel way better if you can slam through and hit the parachute and just keep going that way. And sure enough, you can.
You can.
You can slam your face right through it. Sweet. Which I guess was an indicator that you could do it during the boss fight, which I didn't do. I just used the arrows the whole time.
Yeah.
Quick question: if you're falling, from a great height, will he automatically use his paraglider at the end of it, or because I always press the button, but I'm wondering if I even have to, or if he will just auto stop himself once you have the paraglider?
I think
I don't think there's any auto stop.
Yeah.
I think you just smack into the ground.
Well, though,
you should try it for sure.
Yeah, there's no doubt you should try it.
I'll jump from the highest skyland I can find.
Thank you. Harrison Holt McHale writes in over on Patreon. They say, one of the highlights of my playtime this week was exploring the labyrinth just slightly east of the North Tabantha snowfield, starting on the Hyrule level, completing it, figuring out how I could get into the labyrinth in the sky, completing it, finally dive bombing to the center of both labyrinths, the chasm and the depths below. The game is just throwing you chance after chance to feel cool. That's amazing. I started that, and it was like, that's one where it's like, follow the pine cones, right? And I was like, okay, right? Is this the same one, I presume?
The note about leaving them as a breadcrumb trail.
Yeah, so like, all right, piece of cake. But then I thought I was following them, and I had my stupid bridge that I was trying to like jankily bring along just to cover over the gloom at all opportunities. But then I think it got to the point where I was like, I was back where I started again. I was like, oh, I was following the pine cones, but I think it just led to like a bow and arrow, but I must have missed something in there, because then I kept going beyond that, and I was just like, oh no, I'm back at the start. I guess, is that it? Well, it can't be.
I think the secret to, so I did the whole 3 labyrinths in the northeast, not the northwest, but it sounded like the same sequence. The secret to the labyrinths and why they're fun is like, you can cheat, and they give you the tools to cheat, because it's like, why would you stay on the ground if you can ascend and go up to the very top and like look down on the whole maze?
Well, what are you ascending into?
There are parts that are covered.
Oh, okay.
It's like you'll go under a little overhang, or you can just, you can literally just like climb some of the walls. I think, but it's like you can get on top of the labyrinth, and I think they're kind of designed that way, or at least designed with the knowledge that someone will do them. But yeah, it's like the labyrinths were in Breath of the Wild, and so I thought, oh, I've done this before. But when you do the one on the ground, and then there is one in the sky that is truly so far up that I got up by like. I got to a skyland, I made a flying machine, I stacked another flying machine on top of it, filled the whole thing with batteries, and then had this like 2-stage rocket process to like get to it. And then after you do that one, you go all the way down into the ground and like fight a boss down there. It's crazy. It's like, it's such an extended process. I am mad at it though, because there is literally no way to fast travel back out from, or there's no way to get out of the underground part there without fast traveling, because it's cut off from the rest of the depths. So that kind of ruined my no fast travel run, but still, it was a great experience.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, I think I never did a labyrinth in Breath of the Wild. I ran into like a couple of them back in that game. I was like, I'm not smart enough for this. I'll get back to it later, and then just never did. So I saw this one, and it was a little bit intimidating, but cool to know that I could break it, I guess.
Yeah, just cheat. It expects you to cheat.
Cool. Thanks, man. This is weird. Tell me if I'm just too partial to this game, but I was thinking about like how solving puzzles makes me feel in this game. And it's like just that physics puzzles where they have an idea in mind, but you can like fudge things to make it work. I keep thinking about World of Goo. Did anybody else play World of Goo? Just the idea of like you're building stuff and like it's going to be janky, but like if you push it enough in a direction, you can kind of fudge it and make it mission accomplished. That's like the only feeling that I can make in comparison to another game of how it feels to complete some of these puzzles in kind of a delightfully janky way. Does that make sense to anybody? Is there any other analogy for anybody that you would use for like a game that feels like this for the puzzles?
I don't know the Breath of the Wild always felt to me like when you're jumping backward up a mountain in Skyrim instead of like walking on the path around it made into a game. And that feeling is still here too.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, there were still, obviously it's, not exciting to compare it to Breath of the Wild, but like that was how I felt about that game too. It's just even better in this one. Like that was the first time I felt like I was thinking about like breaking physics puzzles using different physics, but the tools you're given in this one are like even more fun.
Yeah. Tokyo Game Life writes in and says, I love the unpredictability of moment-to-moment gameplay. I was given a simple quest to fetch honey near a chasm. While doing so, I noticed a dragon was diving into the chasm, so I chased after it and rode on the dragon through the dark depths. When we emerged to the surface, it took me right next to a tower, which shot me up into the sky. I shield surfed down from the sky to a shrine, which took all my gear and made me fight through floors of enemies. All of my gameplay sessions are filled with these incredible emergent gameplay adventures. That's it, baby. That's the game.
That's the best.
I still want to ride a dragon.
Yeah, I've seen a couple, but I haven't gotten near them.
Yeah, I've seen dragons, and I've had a couple friends tell me they've ridden dragons, and I just, like, every time I see one, it's, like, so far away. I'm like, how are you finding dragons to ride? How are you doing this?
Just got to imagine them.
Nice.
Boo.
Thank you. Please settle down, everybody. Please. Leo, you were saying something? Please jump in.
It's just that I've had a couple short dud sessions of like, I had half an hour to play and I didn't end up doing anything cool. And that's fine. Because it's like, I don't know. That's part of it. You get what you put into it. And it's so emergent that you can't guarantee every moment is going to be fun.
Right.
But like the fact that as many of them are as there are is amazing.
Go ahead, Jake.
Can I tell my getting stuck in the depths story?
Sure.
Because this was a defining aspect of this play session where I just went down somewhere. I think it was actually in the one near the lookout tower. So there are ways to get out of the depths without fast traveling. There are these things that kind of look like inverted skyscrapers that you can ascend through. but there really aren't a lot of them. And so I was just wandering and looking for one of those and kind of making it through. And I was down there for like genuinely 4 or 5 hours without finding a way out. And
That's cool.
I mean, I had the genius idea at one point. I made a car and then I shot a light flower onto the like base of the car so then I could just drive around and was like lighting up the world around me. But I was down there for so long. I was so lost. And when I came out, I had no idea where I was. I was literally in the most southern, most western part of the map. I was in like the bottom southwest corner, and then getting out of there was like a whole ordeal because it was like an environment I wasn't ready for. But it was like while I was down there, I was so annoyed, but like I would not trade that experience. You know, like having that whole process and getting out was so fun.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's kind of the equivalent. Like as I'm playing this, I was like, oh, I kind of wish the game had what were they called again from Elden Ring? The little teleporter things. The Gales? What are they? Is that what it was called?
Oh, when you just like opened a chest and then you would like be somewhere else?
Yeah, I guess I'm combining two different things in Elden Ring. But yeah. But I wish there was, maybe it's in the game somewhere, but just that you just like teleport you just to show you the scale and scope of the map, just to shock you by, oh, now you're over here, deal with it. And that's exactly what you had from the depths, of course. Yeah.
And in a tiny way, that's kind of like the rocks that descend from the skylands above, and you just like feel like you won the lottery when you catch one and you sprint over to it and recall and get to explore this totally new area up there.
Except maybe like 2 or 3 times now I've gone up there and be like, what? The rock doesn't connect to anything? It's just a rock falling for the sake of a rock falling? So it's such a bummer because I'm expecting like, here we go, puzzle playground up in the sky, let's see it. And then rarely it's disappointing.
True. At least you can still glide and like look around and
that's
pick
all
a new landmark from there.
For sure.
No, but sometimes I wish you could like upgrade the rewind to like last longer because I'm just with those rocks. I'm just like, no, take me higher. Keep going.
Right. Nora writes in, hello, Nora. They say, until the Northwest dungeon forced me down into the depths, I was straight up too spooked by the gloom-encrusted chasms to explore them. I'm really enjoying this new tier in the tiers layer cake. However, seeing just how massive it is down there, it's essentially a second map at the same scale as the surface, has this completionist shaking in her boots. This game is big.
The depths are so cool. This is the section where I started exploring them, and I'm glad the thing that I didn't have spoiled for me about them was just how far down they are. Like it's more than likely they're hiding a load, but it like is the coolest way to do it either way. It is so crazy to be falling as far as you do from the sky to the ground, from the ground to the depth.
Right.
And like when you get down there,
Jacob, hang on. I love it. You said and then you paused and you're like, I'm going to say and with triple the excitement. And then
that's
you
right.
wait for it. Okay.
That's how I feel.
All right, take it away.
Just when you're down there, sometimes you will attach your little light to an arrow and shoot it, and the depth variation within the depths, you realize you're like standing on a mountain because your arrow seems to fall impossibly far, and you're watching it being like, is that like a bottomless pit? And then it will hit the ground and you just realize that like you are somehow on like 1,000-foot tall structure in the cave and the ground is like that far below you.
That is so good. I'm with you. We're like, I like the depths, and it is that feeling though of just like, I don't really need, there's enough light down here. Like they know what they're doing. They're stringing you along. It's not that big of a deal. Then every time I do light up an area, it's like, oh, this is so much more complex than I ever imagined. There's like weird levels to this thing, and it's a whole geography.
Yeah, the sheer blackness is so brave and awesome. I love that you just have to light your way, and the system looks great. You know, this is the section where definitely some of the technical limitations were showing, but like the lighting system's awesome. It's so much more robust than I've seen. At least the ways you can play with it. You know,
also it's such an interesting kind of gameplay loop as well, of just like chucking those things out, moving just a little bit. You know, like it's kind of like, you know, like when you see old movies where like they're cutting a swath through a jungle of just like you're inching your way through this. It kind of gives the discoverability of different areas a different feel than it does, you know, like up on the surface. And I like how like all like the different economies of like depths versus land kind of feed into each other, because I've collected so many sky blooms in caves on the surface that I then use down in the depths to collect a bunch of ore, which I take back and zononite that I take up to the sky to get all the different gotcha machine pieces. Like it's just a very satisfying push and pull between all the 3 different levels.
Yeah, it's incredibly smart. Lazy Monkey writes in, they say, I've been loving the depths since getting the power that's down there. The place is obviously made to be traversed with vehicles, and it is such a fun gameplay loop. There we go, Jeff. Dive to a camp, kill the moblins, crack the rocks, vacuum up the zonite, light the place up, then choose a new direction to go. It's so satisfying. And then John Skovic replied to that comment, and he said, that's so interesting that the depths are a vehicle place for other people. For me, they're completely a survival horror landscape that I slowly pick my way through. I'm basically a scavenger trying to sneak around and collect pose without fighting anything. It's my favorite part of the game. I've spent most of my time down there. Look, I respect depths people. I'm not one of you freaks, but I like that there are the people that play this type of games like depths. That's my jam. If I had to live anywhere in this world, it's in the depths, baby. But it's cool. It's cool you can do that.
I love how I have to work my way up to it. I feel like I do, and I love that about it. Like harvesting those, another, resource trade from above to below, like Jeff was talking about, is those like sunflowers that you craft to make the gloom healing food. It's like I don't go to the depths unless I have a good store of that, so I can kind of stay there for a while. Even though you do get gloom healed by lighting up the areas at the shrine type checkpoints or whatever.
Right.
It's still like I feel like I need to get my resource game under control before I dare go down there.
Is it kind of BS that the Zonai pot only lets you make one recipe?
Survey says yes. Yes, it is.
That's
yes.
why I was like down there and I was like, okay, I'm gonna like make some things. And I did it and it was like I got like one thing that heals 3 hearts. It's like I'm not good enough at making recipes to be like, here's the one that I need that will solve everything, and then the pot is just gone.
I know.
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure. It would work for those people, but I think it's come in handy for me just as like, oh, I'm stuck in the cold area and I don't have any cold healing food or whatever, cold resistance.
Yeah.
I can whip up an elixir for that.
At first I had like 16 of them and I was like, this feels like overkill. Like, when am I going to need 16 pots? And then, I think I have like 5 now because you can only make one at a time.
I'm always just teleporting back to my little home base. It's nice to visit those friends again, and then I'll just cook there no matter what, then just head back. Forrest Cole writes in, they say, one of the small details I really like, there are those shadowy figures in the depths you can get pristine weapons from. These figures have the character models of the royal guards from Ocarina of Time. Tears of the Kingdom seems to have more Ocarina of Time callbacks in general, like the Temple of Time, Raru's name. Are there any other references to other Zeldas you found notable? Fierce Deity.
I found the Twilight Princess tunic.
Oh, really?
Like it's just called like Twilight Tunic, and it like looks exactly like Link's Twilight Princess outfit, which was really cool to find because I love Twilight Princess.
Oh, that sounds great.
Cool.
We need Kyle for that. Kyle Hilliard! Check the chat.
Summon him. Yeah, I'll wait for it.
No Kyle today, everybody. I'm sorry. It's like whistling for your horse and he just can't hear.
No.
Thomas,
You mentioned something on the podcast that I do want to bring up, or someone did, about how the horse does not. They took away the thing that says like your horse can't hear you that they had in Breath of the Wild, and you just don't know if your horse can hear you or not. I hadn't thought about that until I listened to the MinnMax show this last week, and then I was like, oh my god, yeah, that's. And now I miss it way more. So that's a frustrating. That's the one that like I don't actually understand the like game reason for removing that.
Yeah, that was weird.
Like, pretty much every other choice I feel like I totally understand, and that one I'm like, what am I supposed to be learning something from this? From like not knowing if my horse is there or not?
Right. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe it's just like, well, if you play Breath of the Wild, you maybe have a good benchmark of when the horse isn't available, and so maybe you can just internalize it at that point, but that's not fair. Tanner Hoisington wrote in and said, in past games, the camera was always much closer so that towns felt large and characters would fill the screen. Now it just feels always too far back from a bunch of samey-looking NPCs. Has anyone felt this way in Tears of the Kingdom? It's an interesting take.
I just don't play Zelda for the story, so that's not even like a dig on anyone who does. It's just like it's not something I am noticing because it's not something I've been engaging with a lot in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Zelda, worlds, even though I don't care about the plots so much. But it hasn't affected me. I did start noticing yesterday. I remembered that thing where. Did y'all ever see the thing where all of the Breath of the Wild NPCs are actually Miis that have
yes.
A mod? I remembered that, and then I started noticing what the character faces looked like, and I was like, that's a Mii. That is a Mii that has had some sort of algorithm done to it.
That's a Mii. God, I forgot about that. That's right. Let's see. We don't have to dive into all the story things because I don't know what people have found and stuff like that, but now that I kind of know the framing, I guess we can set up the framework for assuming you found at least one dragon tier. It made me laugh. It's such a weird idea of the story for Breath of the Wild was presented in such a specific way of we have our flashbacks. It's a very unique structure. We can't really duplicate that. But they're like, well, we can duplicate it if we just send one character into the past, then we can have the exact same structure for a story. And it's kind of a brilliant solution of okay, it is cool just to uncover these memories in kind of a scattered way, whichever way you find them, but it's going to be a tough narrative discussion. And so I would love to hear more from that team about how they came up with that idea of I don't know, Zelda's in the past and then it's kind of a full loopy thing and done. Let's see. Somebody wrote in. Jared Natsis says, I found the tier cutscene number 10 after getting cutscenes 1 and 2. Holy crap, that escalated quickly. I wonder why they let you experience these out of order instead of just giving them to you sequentially, regardless of which glyph you find. Yeah, it's kind of like, Leo, I guess we're talking about the tutorial shrines, about that idea of are these actually here? But it's I kind of like the purity of that game of if you find the most bombastic, dramatic glyph, and that's the first one you find, good on you,
I love nonlinear storytelling like that. I think it's a good way to handle it here. Because I find myself getting something very interesting out of each of those glyphs. I'm always that's an interesting piece of what's going on here. And I love that. There's times where I've just seen shows out of order and I wonder if it made me like them more because I have more mysteries that I'm finding out about.
Well, I just realized now we have the two immortality boys on this podcast, so I guess that makes sense, right?
There you go.
It is kind of
what happened to Marissa Marcel in Hyrule?
I mean, it does kind of feel like that at times of where does this go compared to this? What is with this long singing sequence? I don't know. God's Garage says, how are we doing on memory so far? Who has seen that creepy Ganondorf smile? It gave me goosebumps the first time I saw it. We've seen Ganondorf, I assume. We've seen him around. He's transforming. He's doing a lot of stuff. He's being a cool guy. We'll talk about it in a future episode. Thomas Watkins writes in. I had no idea this was in the game. I do not understand what Nintendo was thinking with the unlock quest for the fairy fountains in this game. Has anyone found the fairy fountains yet?
I unlocked one.
I unlocked one.
Yeah.
Oh, God. All right. I'm way out of left field. You're required to unlock the northeast fountain first. Even if that is the first one you find, you cannot initiate the quest without having gone to the newspaper headquarters in the northwest.
Oh.
So unless you go northwest first and then head northeast from there, it is very likely that you will end up playing a huge portion of the game without the ability to upgrade your armor. It feels very antithetical to the free-roaming design of the rest of the game.
Yeah, that's too bad.
I guess
that's interesting.
Good planning, Ben, on making us go in that order.
Well, I mean, Kelsey, even in our meeting this morning, you're I've got no hints that the game wants me to progress in this order, but I think it's all just based on that initial Purah conversation where she lays out the map and is, I thought, pretty clearly spiral it around everybody.
I mean, I believe you. I do, I remember her marking this stuff on the map. I don't remember it being you should do them in this order. And yeah, maybe I'm just not paying very much attention, but I feel I get hints to go in lots of directions, but it might just be because I'm sort of wandering, and so I'm not following the path already. And if I just kind of stuck to only talk to people in the Northwest and see what they say, and they all say go Northeast. But I'm just not playing it that way, so I just don't feel I'm actually being pushed in any particular direction.
For a game that tells you about marbled rock roast 10,000 times, like they were really subtle about a generally best direction order to go to.
Yeah, it seems like the big hint, I guess, there are a couple hints of like go northwest, and then for this one, after you complete the temple, if you go back to the home base, there's a Goron there. And he's talking about like, oh, and other people like making fun of him. Like, I can't believe you forgot the way to Goron City. You got to go this way, then this way, then this way. So I guess that's kind of their reminder nudge to head up yonder.
Yeah, I did see that guy, I guess. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I mean, to be fair, people are also talking about other towns. And I'm like, I'll get to you later. I don't even know what you're talking about right now. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, you have a couple of people in Lookout Landing who are talking about like their various villages. Like, oh, I'm here because my village was attacked by pirates. And I'm here because my village, I think I'm just getting like message overload. And so none of them are sticking out to me as like the hint.
Yeah.
So the Great Fairy one, was it like bringing the band up the mountain? Is that the thing that y'all did? Yeah. I had a fun Tears of the Kingdom moment where it's like they very clearly signaled like, hey, get the horse, get the harness, pull them up this way. And I already had like half of a car. And so I just put like the big monster truck wheels on it and was like, this is how we're getting up the mountain, and pulled them up that way. And it worked.
Oh, that's sweet. Nice. I love, was it Hestu? Is that his name? The Korok Seeds guy? Like, it just kind of reinforced something absurd about this game. And I know there's like a similar dance or whatever in Breath of the Wild. Is it the same dance as in Breath of the Wild that he does when you give him the Korok Seeds?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Regardless, I love that like a game, presumably this expensive and this big, can have something just as like stupid and silly as just the Hestu and the Koroks doing that stupid dance every time you upgrade something. It's just like, it just feels like a song that somebody like hummed into a microphone. Just like having that level of silliness in a production this big, I think it's heartwarming. I feel like rarely do you see something as loose as like, I don't know, just this silly dance from Hestu at the end. Leo, you're squinting like I've never seen somebody squint before.
Who is Hestu and where are they and what do they do?
Oh, you got to see Hestu.
He's the giant Korok guy that you give the Korok seeds to unlock more inventory slots.
What?
Oh yeah, baby, it's sweet.
I've seen him in two places and I can't remember what the first place was, but he was just hanging out in Lookout Landing for a while too.
No. But you have to find him in the first place first.
Oh, okay.
He's on the trail to somewhere. But I found him there, and then I didn't know that he moved back to Lookout Landing. Mm-hmm. And so I also had like 40 Korok seeds, and was like, I don't know where this guy is.
I stopped doing Korok stuff because I'm like, I don't know, you just get the big turd at the end for getting all of them. I don't really care about this.
Oh no, it's important. Yeah, it's on the way to the northwest. I think he's like on the hill.
On the path.
Yeah, there's kind of a hilly path type thing. Look for the hill in the path. It's a green path.
I've been so annoyed how limited my inventory has been this whole time. I had no idea.
My question is, I mean, to be fair, I still think it's a knock against this game is like there's a lot of just kind of finicky inventory management. Even if you're going nuts on the Korok seeds, it's still frustrating. But my equivalent of that is there's that guy who's like, what I think he's northeast of your home base, and he's collecting crystallized charges. And every time I go to him, he's like, "You have 0." I was like, "What? What is this? What am I missing out on here?"
It's a depths thing.
Oh,
there's another type of converter, right?
Yeah, don't you have to convert your zonite to crystallized zonite?
There was one of the guys in the tutorial island who you use the it's not the zonite charges, it's ore. You break things and you get ore, and then you can give them to him for something called crystallized charges.
Okay.
And it's different than the zonite stuff. And then when you have 100 of those, he'll give you one extra battery bar. And so currently I have like 2.5 batteries.
Oh my God.
Which really helps when you're, trying to fly somewhere.
I've been wanting to do that, but I haven't been able to find that. I knew there was one on the tutorial island, but I went back and I couldn't find him. The converter from Zonite.
Ooh, I hope he's still
he wasn't
there.
quite on the tutorial island. He was like just on an island near there.
Well, that's So it's all very confusing. The guy who converts it into battery charges there's one right next to Lookout Landing.
Yeah.
He's like from a piece of sky that fell. But then the dudes they have like limited inventory, the guys who you buy the crystallized charges from. And so you kind of have to find a bunch of them. And I think almost all of them are in the depths because there are like refineries down there.
Okay.
But it's really hard to find anything down there. So like, good luck.
Oh, God. God's Garage writes in and says, I'm counting the Lost Woods as kosher for this discussion as it's located in the north part of the map. Seems fair. Who has gone through the Lost Woods here? I haven't.
No, I just tried to parachute in from the sky, which, you can't do.
Oh, really? To stop you?
And then I was like, oh, I guess that was actually like, that's the last thing I was like kind of on my way to do when I was playing last.
Yeah,
so I'll probably get to that tonight.
I just walked in and I tried to do the puzzle solution from Breath of the Wild to like follow the sparks.
Right.
But like that's not what it is anymore. And then I had a friend tell me that it was linked to a story thing. So I just figured I have not done the story quest yet.
Oh.
But maybe he was wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, God's Garage says, the way you get in has been the most frustrating puzzle in the whole game so far. The solution is so obtuse and different from anything else the game teaches you. Every other puzzle in the game feels like some gentle hand is pointing you in the right direction, but nothing made me think of the solution in this case. I had to resort to a guide. Maybe that's because they didn't get that story hint. Maybe?
Yeah, my guess is that you would find an NPC who's like, do this.
Right. Dirty E says, while going northeast, I decided to go to the Lost Woods. I guess the best way to avoid potential spoilers is to ask, did anyone complete it? No, we did not. They say it was kind of mind-blowing to complete it early. That seems very interesting. I do enjoy how significant areas from the previous game holds rewards / quests in this game. Yeah, all right. Well, maybe you need to go figure this thing out, even if it's going to be frustrating. Did anybody go to Terrytown yet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I am right on the edge of it. I did not get a chance to. Ian Miller says, am I the only one that feels the game wanted me to go to Terrytown way sooner? There's a whole side quest where you put a control stick on a vehicle and drive it around to collect data. They give you a whopping 3 minutes to complete a 5-gate time trial. Am I missing something? I've had so many opportunities to mess with Ultra Hand constructions, and the last place I'd think to learn about it would be on the fringes of the map. Still great game. Thanks, bye. Did you do that, Geller?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's like, there's not really anything to spoil, but the plot of Terrytown now is like, for some reason, there is an extra amount of Zonai stuff just like falling from the sky there. And so it's like every surface just has like rockets and gliders like sticking out of it. And then you can like pull them out and do stuff.
Oh, that's sweet. Gavin C says, I found my favorite side quest in the game so far. It's called Madison's Independence. The Terrytown mayor is married to a Gerudo and their daughter needs to go to her homeland to learn their ways. I won't spoil it, but it's super wholesome. And her dad asks you to check in on her if you visit Gerudo Town before his wife reminds him that no men are allowed in. I look forward to totally not visiting her disguised as a woman later. All right, well, we'll see how that goes for you. Cree McGee writes in and says, I loved coming across the first Goron with glowing red eyes eating marbled rock roast. It immediately clued me in that something was terribly wrong. Between finding these tweaking Gorons and the blizzard-addled Ritos, it left me wondering about what kind of trials and tribulations the Zora and the Gerudo will be facing. Yeah, everyone's going to be tortured in their own way, I'd have to imagine. I didn't. The first shot of that glowing-eyed Goron, it's like, what is this just how they look now? What is happening? But then the heartbreaker of like the two kids being the only ones who are like trying to bring everybody back to sanity. It's a weird angle for the story here.
And the old man.
Yeah, the kids.
I guess that's true. I guess that's true. Yeah. Hey, Jacob Geller, I think this is like the darkest Zelda yet.
Well, it reminded me of in Twilight Princess, there's the mission where you go to like the Yeti's mansion on like the top of a big snowfield, and then the boss is like his wife who like looks in this like evil mirror, and it like drives her crazy, and she gets red eyes and she starts attacking you. And so yeah, it's scary stuff.
Scary stuff. Let's see. Sean Mills writes in and says, I thought it was weird I could still do a side quest to get more rock roast after it had all disappeared. it just has like a weird gray color after it, apparently. So if you do the quest after the dungeon. On the plus side, I thought it was cool that you can drop any food item on the ground in the temple and it'll immediately cook for you. That is cool. Or I love just like every...
Oh, I didn't think about that. That's funny.
And every arrow you shoot just becomes like a fire arrow. Like, that's so sweet.
It's very funny that you can still light enemies on fire by shooting them with a fire arrow, even though it's hot enough that the arrow just catches on fire. You know, it was like, wait, why aren't they just catching on fire being here?
They're not made of arrow.
Am I the only one who blew themselves up like 5 times trying to use bomb arrows and then forgetting that I did that and then doing it again?
I think I did it once, but I kind of learned from my mistakes.
That's probably the right number of times to do it.
I assumed it would blow up instantly, and so I did not try. So I'm glad to hear confirmation that that's exactly what happens.
Smart. Michael Stevens says, I felt so bad for the young Gorons in the town. They were so confused and dejected, not knowing what had suddenly come over their loved ones after they became forcibly addicted to marble rock roast. Starting with Tool and spaced out older brother Baron at the Bedrock Bistro. Wild for Nintendo to hit at themes of drug abuse in a Zelda game. It is a wild idea.
Lots to say about addiction here.
Right.
A lot of themes.
Casey L writes in and says, did we do it justice, Leo?
Yeah.
Okay.
All the guys say we like eating the rock roast. Everybody you talk to.
Yep.
I don't feel like, I don't know, maybe this is me just like not respecting Nintendo enough to do something like that, but like I get that you can totally make that allegory that it's like it's a drug addiction, but I'm pretty sure it's just everyone's addicted to marbled rock roast because sort of Zelda told them to be, and I don't actually think Nintendo's like drug abuse is a really real problem, and because it's also just solved by like purging the evil and then everybody's better, you know? Like that's not how you solve real drug abuse. I don't think that's what they're going for here.
I think it's just kind of the basic, I mean, going back to like the Odyssey and the Lotus Eaters. I mean, it's just kind of the classic legendary mythological thing of like, oh, you get stuck in the zone, they can't break out. That said, cleanse the whole town, get rid of all the marble rock roast. That's great. I was still confused about like, so what was that stuff exactly? Did I miss some like explanation of exactly what was going on there? Is this Ganon Zelda nonsense?
I think it was just rock that had been kind of infused with the gloom, wasn't it?
But then why did it just disappear into thin air?
Because you purified the land from the
fact
gloom?
that it wasn't just like, okay, now there's a big pile of rocks left over.
Right.
was a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like if you look at the volcano, it doesn't have like the crazy stuff sticking out of it after you finish the temple. So yeah, I just kind of assumed it was part of that. It is weird. I know we're not talking about story stuff, but it was just like Zelda. It's like there's an evil Zelda. Like she told them to eat it.
What's up with Zelda?
She is. I know I referenced it last time. She is just full Sephiroth. Like Sephiroth in the original 567 in Midgard, just like seeing a mysterious figure, like just walking away constantly. It's like, is it a ghost? What am I dealing with? Like, I'm a little confused with that. Like the best I can do is, it's like, oh, this is either some version of her that was distorted through time, or it's her like subtly trying to guide Link all the places he needs to go, and it just makes it look like she's evil.
Doing evil and making him fix the evil. Yeah, I mean, obviously this will become clear later in the game, I'm sure, but I don't know. It's a weird story beat to follow right now, where it's just like the big thing is that no one is ever like. Actually, I guess the Goron people were like, no, that was definitely Zelda.
Yep.
But sometimes the people are like, I don't know. Like, she kind of looked like Zelda, but I don't know if it actually was.
It was too dark to notice, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think that was just a way of layering it. So now when you're in Goron City, it's like, oh no, it was absolutely Zelda. It's like they wanted to keep it a little bit mysterious, but now we're just seeing like full-on cutscenes of her. So I don't know.
What if it's like one of those time travel stories where she went back in time and then she's like lived so long that she's just lost her mind and she's like, I just want to see everything burn.
That is the story I want. Absolutely. Casey L writes in and says, I just wanted to say, has anyone noticed how tiny the Goron's feet are? They're so small compared to the rest of the body. I keep thinking that their legs are going to snap in half. They're cute. Yeah, you got it.
Haven't looked at the Goron feet, but I will now.
I respect them too much. I only look in their eyes. Their weird, beady little eyes. Sharif Jackson says, the price of the flame armor seemed a little high for it to be required to get near Death Mountain or go into the caves/depths. The game may be encouraging folks to grind for rupees, but I think that can turn off players. Yeah, after the Wind Temple, which I did without getting the like warm clothes, and so I just stocked up on like, spicy peppers and all that stuff. Like I made a vow to myself that like no matter what, I need to get the clothes for this region because having like a timer on you trying to solve a dungeon was a terrible feeling. So I was like, no matter what, I need these.
I did not want to do that, and the weird thing is the fact that you just needed the one piece here because like the pants were like 1,500 and then the headdress thing was like 1,700. Like the prices really escalate, but it seems like the base buy-in hasn't been too bad so far.
Yeah. Brandon S writes in and says there's a Fire Coliseum combat challenge in the depths near the dungeon. It sends waves of high-level moblins at you. I set up multiple auto-targeting Zonai cannons and witnessed moblins ragdoll all over the place. It's my favorite moment so far. Also, I got a mask that makes Link unfreezable, so that's good. That does sound great. It's okay. It's that level of messing around and playing around with the toys that I haven't really done. Like, I'm glad there's that shrine to teach you about the battle bots because I kept getting those before and I'm like, this sounds great, but like Zonai honing things, like, am I ever going to use these? But apparently setting up like turrets that just fire missiles at all these guys, that sounds hilarious. Let's see. Where are you? Oh, this is Joseph Stanichar, former intern. Hello, Joseph. They say the fight against the boss that comes out of the volcano was super easy, but really cool. I love flying around on the Zonai paper airplane. More boss fights should use vehicles, they say. That was cool. That was definitely one that started up and I'm like, oh, is this going to be a pain in the ass? Like, oh no, it's basically just like one shot for each section and done. Mm-hmm. But I love that they made something that big, even if it was that relatively simple.
Yeah, good empowering sequence. It was fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There were a couple fake outs in this section where it's like you fight Eubono like immediately once you get there, and then it's like, okay, now we're gonna climb Death Mountain, which I figured was kind of analogous to getting up to the Air Temple or whatever, and then you did that boss fight and was like, well, wait, that was way too easy, and then I realized, wait, I haven't even been to a fire temple yet. Like, what is going on?
Yeah. And then,
did anyone else go up Death Mountain the wrong way and like just walk around in the middle of it for a while and then descend and like hit the cutscene on the? No, just me.
No,
I did go up there before I had Yunobo as the partner, and so I like
really
couldn't break some of the and I was like, is there something supposed to be in here? There's nothing.
Oh, funny. So that's what it was?
So I climbed up it like a different way. I think there's a way to take like a minecart most of the way up, and whatever that was, I was not seeing it, and so I just basically climbed the entire thing, and
that's awesome.
Ended up at the top in like a completely empty top of Death Mountain. I mean, it wasn't like there's gloom and there was like big marbled rock things everywhere, but like breaking them didn't do anything. It was just kind of an empty top of the mountain, and then I eventually triggered the big monster to come out. But I thought it was interesting that you could just kind of like walk up there and be like, I feel like something's supposed to be happening.
I love that.
I refused to take the minecart because they were like, oh yeah, this minecart will go straight up to the top, and I was like, that's what you want me to do. But I went into the cave that was underneath it, and then spent like way much longer than a mine cart ride would have taken, but just like trying to get myself up close enough to the ceiling to then ascend through it, and eventually managed to do it by like raising the glider manually by dragging a glider in there, then raising it up with Ultra Hand, and then using the recall ability so I could then use the ascend when I finally got up there, and finally like ended up ascending in like on a very steep slope on the side of Death Mountain, like way high up, but it was close enough that I could then paraglide over to the little platform, which is right where the minecart would have taken me in like 30 seconds, but I had way more fun, so I'm counting that as a win.
That's
beautiful.
Yeah. It was confusing. Like the first time I jumped into a minecart and like Bo just jumped on the front, it was like, is the game glitching out? Like, what is this? It's like, okay, this is going to be a big component and you need it to work your way up. Okay, got it. Did anybody else jump into Death Mountain, but then get sidetracked by the pose? Like I was falling down and I saw like pose, I think they're on the right. I'm like, well, I love collecting those pose more than anything in the game. I gotta go get those. And then went over to those. And then it was that situation, classic depths of like, where am I now? Like I seem to be on a completely different continent than the fire temple where I'm supposed to go. And then that was like the big hurdle of trying to navigate the lava to get back to like, okay, where is my friend? He's somewhere in these depths, but it's just a pain in the ass to get over to him again. But those pose were super worth it.
Have you found...
No.
Who wants pose?
No. They say in the description something, but
they're like, someone wants these. I have 700. It's like, what do I do
like
with them?
Statue, I mean, I haven't found it either, but it says something.
My wife said there's a statue in Lookout Landing that you're supposed to take him to, but I have no idea.
Wait, but it's not the evil one?
Yeah, I tried taking it to the evil one because that's what it's called, something like the bargaining statue. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's the thing that I found in Lookout Landing. But then just, I don't know, he doesn't like notice I have them or anything. Like
surely you want these 700 souls.
No. Please, no. Those were people, you monster. Wait, did your wife find them? Jeff? Like find the statue, or she just is? Do you think she's thinking that trading statue?
No, she either found it or she watched a video of something. That's what she said. I don't know.
That's the least funny use of that phrase I've ever heard in my life. People are saying in the Twitch chat that it's the same building that Joshua is in. It's the statue in Lookout Landing where Robbie hangs out. Oh, I remember that one. Yeah. Kind of the science one. That's right. I forgot. There is that weird statue over there. Okay, that makes sense.
It's crazy that 5 of us can be this far into the game and there's still stuff in Lookout Landing that we don't like completely understand and haven't, interacted with the way we're supposed to.
I'm really grateful I missed like all the introductions to the depths that are around there. I like somehow sidestepped all those NPCs who talked to you about it and stuff, and then later like took the first dip by myself in a totally random part of the map, and it felt like very
me too
unique to me, which was cool.
I mean, it is the weird thing that both this and Elden Ring have that epiphany moment of like, what if there was a huge world under the ground? And it's just so bizarre that like back-to-back years, we're still amazed by it. I don't know how many other franchises can pull this off where it's like, whoa, what do you mean huge underground? But like, we're 2 for 2, baby, of being amazed by these. Benji writes in and they say, I'm just stunned by this game. It's already home to some of the best moments I've had in 35 years of gaming. One of which was my completely organic discovery of the Fire Temple. A dark yet leisurely balloon ride to check out a shadowy structure in the distance quickly turned to full-blown hype when I found myself flying amongst the upper floors of the Fire Temple. When the dungeon title card hit alongside the vocal theme, I absolutely lost it. The whole game is full of moments like this, and I'm consistently amazed at how seamless it manages to interweave organic and scripted content. That's awesome.
Wait, but can you like do it?
I think so.
But don't you need Yunobu to like break stuff?
You need to ring the gongs, right?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, maybe you can just hit it with a hammer. Like, I have no idea. I cheesed the heck out of that shrine or temple, and like, look, I think I just don't like temples.
I'm with you.
That's a character flaw of me. I get it. That's like half the appeal of Zelda, and that's just I'm not into them. So I mean, I think I did 2 of them the way that the game wants you to do it, and then I went and got a bunch of Zonai springs, and I rocketed myself up through the rest of the structures and I refused to engage with the minecarts any further.
That is ridiculous. So you just launch yourself, because a lot of it, I mean, several of the gongs are just like, if you just get high enough here and going from the top, and so that's all you really needed is just, if you had enough verticality, you're set.
I mean, it was like, the game definitely tries to make sure that that's at least difficult. Like everything has a roof and like weird siding and stuff. Like it's difficult to just, there's not a lot of places where you can spring up and then go over. But yeah, a combination of finding the right open-ish areas for that and like ascend and all of that. And I just decided that I really didn't want to deal with the minecarts, and so I didn't.
I was definitely dreading it when I saw it. I'm like, oh, this is going to be some wild logic circuitry type puzzle navigating the map. And it wasn't that bad as somebody who also isn't wild about dungeons in Zelda. And I know it's controversial, but yeah, I enjoyed that temple fine. I was surprised where it's like, oh, it's also just kind of like the same structure as the first one, just like unlock these 5 areas and it'll unlock the center. I'm curious if all the temples are set up with just kind of a 5 unlocks to the big thing.
I mean, that's kind of what the Breath of the Wild ones were too, and I do feel like it's not really, like I had fun doing it because it just felt like here are 5 mini shrines. It's just like 5 little puzzles and you can do them in any order. But it's like it does not have like the kind of like when I think about like the Water Temple and Twilight Princess, which is this kind of like, oh my gosh, you're putting all these pieces together and like at the end you've been seeing this room the whole time, and when you redirect 4 flows of water, it feels more building, where this is just like 5 puzzles. And I, even though I am not one of those people who's like, it's not Zelda without the dungeons, I do understand why it would be disappointing, because it just like, it doesn't really feel like big brain. It's just like, how do I get to these 5 separate places?
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder, it is weird when it seemed like that was one of the main pieces of feedback, was like, we want dungeons. And for them not to blow them out in a big way, to still have it kind of be slightly more elaborate versions of the Divine Beast from Breath of the Wild. And I wonder if internally they talked about it or had some metrics, because I don't know, I think of like previous Zelda games. It's like, if you ask people if they didn't complete a Zelda game, like, where'd you fall off? Most people are probably like, yeah, it's some dungeon I couldn't get through and I gave up there. And I wonder if any part of that is them kind of internalizing that feedback of like, I know people say they want them, but if we could just smooth out that incline a little bit for some of these dungeon-like experiences, it's going to be better for everybody. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's tough because in the classic games, dungeons were always... They were always built around or designed around whatever new ability that you got, or new item that gave you a new functionality. And so like that's out the window right from the beginning. And then I'm sure like if you did do some kind of big brain thing, I think it would probably have to be more linear, and I'm sure that just goes against kind of the open design of this. I feel like if you forced people like, okay, you're going to do this part first, and then you're going to do this part, and you're blocked off from this part until you've combined these things, I'm sure people would be complaining, well, I couldn't solve it the way I wanted to with springs, like that kind of free form. It's just such a different format for Zelda games. And I get why it doesn't gel for some people, but it's kind of the format of these 2 games. Like, yeah. It would be hard to stray and give people a traditional Zelda dungeon in this kind of format, I think.
I wonder.
Yeah, I mean, I think also because this is a game that is bringing in a lot of like not traditional Zelda fans, and I mean, I consider myself among them. Not that like I have enjoyed many Zelda games in the past, but like I'm not like super excited about the Zelda format as much as I am about the like Tears of the Kingdom Breath of the Wild format. And I think that there's probably a lot of people who, if you did that kind of like hard turn back to traditional Zelda, more difficult, more involved puzzles that only have, like a single solution, like I feel like I would have been more frustrated if I had been kind of forced to do the Fire Temple the way they wanted me to do the Fire Temple.
Oh, yeah.
I loved that I was able to like be like, no, I don't want to do the mine carts, and like just made my own way through it. That was like easily 80% of the fun of it for me.
I think the solution might be It's weird to say this. The solution is to make us pay for it. But if it genuinely was like there's 2 waves of DLC and they're just like new Skylands showed up and they strip you of everything you have and they are the more classic dungeon design from Zelda, I wonder if that's the way to go. Just make it kind of optional, but like if you're really a hardcore fan, you want it, we have an easy way to plop it in here. Maybe people would be horrified by that, but I don't know. Thickaroni with cheese, of course, they wrote in and said, I enjoyed the fire temple even more than the wind temple, both the lead up and the temple itself. I ended up getting stuck at one point and finding a back route into one of the temple areas. I ended up totally lost because a sequence broke by sticking 2 minecarts side by side so they could latch onto adjacent tracks. I eventually figured out the proper pathing and I felt a little bit silly, but it was super fun. I didn't think about that because there are those tracks right next to each other. So I guess if you do stick them side by side.
The things that I do are just like there are 2 hooks on the next to the minecart, and you can just put 2 hooks over one rail, and so it doesn't need to ride on 2 rails. Like I think that's basically intended.
No, I think this is something else. I think this is like slamming 2 carts right next to each other into like 2. Does that make sense? Are we talking about
4 rails, 2 tracks?
Yes.
Oh.
2 tracks. That's a better way to put it. Yes, exactly. There was one part of this dungeon where I spent so much time and I was just like overthinking it, I guess. But I think it was like on the way up to a gong or it was next to a gong. But I'm so stupid. There's just like one of those bridges. And this also was in the northwest part of the map, or maybe it was more central north. But there's just one of those bridges where you're putting piece by piece and attaching it, right? And it was just like, all right, here's a bridge down in this temple and you can reconnect them. Do you know what I'm talking about? And I spent so much time just trying to like rebuild this bridge that was just like horizontal from the path I was looking for. And then I realized at a certain point, like I could go up to where the bridge goes. There's nothing up there. There's like a rock that you can break with nothing in it. Like, I don't know why that was there.
Yeah, that was, I think there was like a treasure chest in that giant rock or something like, or like it spit out some Zona devices. But yeah, that was just like a weird little optional thing.
I feel like that's the most frustrated I've ever been in the game so far with like the physics is those weird bridges. Like there's one going up to the tower in the north that like the Korok wanted to be brought up, you know? And like I kind of stitched all the bridge pieces together, but it was just a little bit jittery and I was trying to just like walk up it and climb it. And it actually like, as I was climbing it, it was like, and it like brought Link to kind of the back side, even though there's no logical reason he should be there. So basically one time playing this game, something happened that would have happened 400 other times if any other developer made this game, you know, just like, wait, this doesn't make sense physically. But, and plus I was frustrated because I kept trying to, with those bridges, it's like, okay, I'm trying to, use Ultra Hand to like hold the bridge out horizontally, then I let it fall, then I use Recall to bring it back so it's also holding out horizontally, then I bring the other bridge out to try and attach it. But like you can't Ultra Hand attach during Recall? Is that right? I think it's stopping me from doing that, which is another rare instance of the game saying no. But has anybody else tried to combine that type of thing? I think it limits you there. Let's see. Malcolm H writes in and says, playing with the minecarts was so fun. I feel like the dungeon was much simpler and straightforward than the first, but the novelty of riding the carts was fun throughout the entire thing. People love the carts. Jonathan?
I end up having to backtrack a lot because I don't have the mini map on, I think, so I didn't see exactly where all the gongs were. So I didn't like how I ended up having to be like going to the main map and picking out like, oh, okay, I guess I'm 3 floors up from that one. Like I was in the map too much, but maybe it would have been easier if I had the mini map on.
It took me a while to realize like, oh, they actually mark on the map where all these things are. I thought I was just kind of winging it, but
yeah, I skipped a lot of the minecarts as well, and just had so many lava bridges to everywhere. Was how I got through that.
Smart.
That thing.
How's the frame rate for that? Because I noticed that like the frame rate will drop pretty hard if I have that lava bridge that's kind of like trying to work around and.
Yeah, that was the first temple where I was like, oh, there are like genuine frame rate issues in this game. Like I felt like I hadn't actually ran into, you know, anything other than very, very minor performance drops until this section.
Yep. For sure.
Yeah, this is the time I was like, I want to speed through this so that I don't have to look at this frame rate anymore.
Yeah.
On what Leo said about the mini map, a genuine complaint is just Nintendo's absolute refusal to ever give you options in terms of like controls or anything. It's just like, man, let me just turn the time of day off and the temperature off and the sound meter off, but like leave the mini map on. You know, why are my 2 HUD options everything or nothing?
Right.
Like
right.
it just feels like you should be able to like, or you know, do this and the mini map will pop up for a second or something. It just like, I don't understand why you can't just adjust the HUD as you would like
for a game all about player expression. Yeah.
I love this game so much, but on this thread of I don't understand, can we talk about why there are 2 cutscenes at the end of every shrine that every single player on the planet Earth skips?
It is.
Why would they be there?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I was thinking the same thing of like, what kind of maniac sits through this? Like, you get the atmosphere.
Nobody on Earth.
Why is it 2? Like, I would understand having 1 even if everyone skips it, but like, why is it 2?
Yeah.
Why is it that I am like, you know, you get there and honestly, I don't even know. Like, I guess I did watch it the literal first time I went through a shrine. I've not watched it since. I don't even like remember what it is exactly, but it's like 1 is just the thing breaking and mom and dad are sitting there. And then the next one is they're actually giving you the blessing of light. Like why is that 2 different things?
That's weird. Again, I love this game so much. It's so great. It's so perfect. But in the shrines, I'm always struck by like when they use the Zelda chime. Like at times the Zelda chime will go off and I'm like, I feel like I haven't even done half the shrine yet. Like I want that moment like with an epiphany.
There's a bridge and you walk across it.
Yeah. It's just, you're undercutting the power of the chime. Like I want to feel like a eureka moment every time that chime goes off. And it's just kind of like, what, here? Okay.
It's a eureka. You took a platform and you put it over a thing and you walked across it. Da-da-da-da.
Sweet.
It's nice because when my girlfriend's like next to me while I'm playing, doing her own thing, she hears that, oh, Leo just did something smart over and over and over again.
Right.
Must be killing it.
So you need to go like, oh, right after, just to really reinforce how smart you are.
Knew that would work.
Oh, let me check the stats. Oh, no one on the internet's figured that out, huh? Oh, okay.
Humble brag, I also have a girlfriend who sits next to me while I play this game.
Nice.
And the only part that she has been like, this is bad, is in the fire temple with the Goro talking. She was like, she's literally said, this is the only part of this I haven't enjoyed watching you play, because he just like kept yelling.
That's, again, brilliant game. We would not dare to criticize anything, but I'm with you where it's like, there's that moment in the cutscene where he's like, oh no, is Zelda inside the monster? And it's like, I'm not trying to attack the actor. I think it's just like the tone. Like, so the rest of this game is just like the most sophisticated game toy contraption ever built. And then for the VO, it's like mediocre Saturday morning cartoon level
they
VO.
all sound like Ninja Turtles.
Right.
Like,
it's like, what are we doing?
They all just sound like Ninja Turtles.
Other than that,
which is amazing.
Nintendo, please.
Thank you. Yes. Jonathan Valdez writes in and says, first off, I think this might be the best game ever made. Not my favorite, but the best. I like chilling with Yunobo as much as I did with Tulin. I didn't use the carts at all, but I just climbed and glided around the temple and had a great time and thought it was super cool. Also, did anybody else on the show find the giant robot yet? I don't think so.
Oh, like the boss?
I don't know what they say. Nathan Freeman says, it's wild how the game allows you to subvert its dungeon design. I had a long day before I tackled the fire temple and I didn't have the brain power left for the carts. Using mini rockets and the paraglider, I was able to complete the dungeon how I wanted to, and I'm pretty amazed by that. I'm
so happy I'm not the only one. Like, I recognize that a lot of people think the mine carts are cool and that the puzzles were probably not difficult in the slightest, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't want to do it, and I think it's totally valid that there's a lot of people that are just like, nah, don't want to do that puzzle.
That's awesome that you can do that. I really love that.
Yeah, it was a mess. When I looked at it on the map, and it looked like a circuit board of all the different tracks, and then like switches everywhere for turning them around and everything. It was like, no.
It was not that bad. It was not that bad. I thought it was going to be worse than it was.
There were a lot of switches, and half of them just turn it around at the end of a terminus.
That is true.
And like hits you with it as it's flying around.
Yeah.
I did that many times.
And then
I was rotating just a plank. I was just like manipulating a giant plank with Ultra Hand, and I was spinning it too fast, and it like scooped me up from behind and threw myself off a cliff.
GoFish says, this has been my favorite temple, yet partially because I tried my best to do only the, quote, intended solutions, aka not cheese any puzzles with outside resources or excessive use of the hand abilities. Then Starkiller says, I've been having a lot of fun reverse engineering the puzzles and game design. What I mean is, instead of thinking, how can I break this puzzle, which I assume everybody else is, I try to think, what do the developers actually want me to do here? What I've discovered,
favorite.
what I've discovered is that if you investigate the surroundings of an environmental puzzle, usually you'll find some items or materials that can get the job done. Soar long, says Starkiller. That's just the amazing thing about this game is that that's how you feel like you're doing the opposite is when you're trying to do what the designers wanted you to do. Like that's such a twisted way to look at it, but you're totally right. We have more. Leo.
Have y'all found this is leaving the temple behind. But on the Skylands, there are those special orbs that they have a different name, but if you find 4 of them, you can like power up one of your spirit summons.
I only found one of those. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I have 3 of them, and the entire time was just like, what are these for, and who do I take them to? So it's for your ghost friends.
It's for your ghost friends, and I didn't know what they were until I think there's a message when you get 4. But it's like you just take it to the same goddess statue. And I thought that it would like power up their ability. Yeah. And so I gave it to the bird because I wanted to be blown farther. But I think it actually just makes them like do more damage in combat.
I thought it was
just so people know before they use them, because they are really, I mean, I have found 4. Like I would guess they're probably only 16 in the whole game. But it's yeah, and it hasn't really been noticeable. I haven't noticed that the bird is much better, but I just thought it was an interesting other orb.
Yeah, I thought it was a cooldown thing. That's what I was banking on. Like, that'd be nice to have the gust a little bit more.
Yeah.
But
also bubble gems. Has anyone found the bubble gem vendor? Because I haven't.
No.
Still no.
Like someone might want one of these.
I know. Yeah,
like,
Jeremy L says bubble frogs and bloopies.
Yeah, I have. Actually, it was a little creepy goblin guy who wants to turn himself into one of the creepy monkeys that you find in the caves.
The creepy caves.
You give them to him, he gives you like monster clothes. I got like a bokoblin hat from him, and when I wear it, they won't attack me because they think I'm one of them.
Oh.
That's
kind of
fun. You can do like stealth sneak into the base.
You can just walk around with them, yeah. And
that's
they're cool.
Is it where is this guy?
Oh boy, it was by a lake next to, I want to say, the wooden stable. One of the stables.
Huh. Okay.
I do remember someone hinting that he would be like near a stable, but
right.
I feel like I've been to a lot of stables and I haven't seen him yet, but maybe I've just missed him.
Kilton, people are saying.
Kilton and his brother. Huh.
Has anyone found along those lines of sneaking behind enemy lines Muddlebud, the flower?
Yes, I love Muddlebud.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
What do you do with it?
I call that the Leo Vader flower. It's just like, now it's really an immersive sim.
Yes, it is. It makes the people fight each other. It's like the Berserk dart from Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really a great way to do an encampment, is to just never break stealth. Just stand there chucking the flower at them every once in a while.
Also, great work from the Treehouse. Muddlebud is the best possible name for that flower. It's top tier. Yeah. Jeremy L says, bubble frogs and bloopies, oh my. Has anyone been able to hit one of the bloopies that come out of killing a bubble frog? I didn't.
No, I've hit them in the wild if you can just sneak up on them, but I imagine you would have to be like already in the air to slow down time when they come out. Like, I don't know how else you would be that fast.
Okay.
Yeah, in the caves, it seems insane. I've had 2 instances where I saw them when I was like on the side of a mountain, and so I jumped and slow motioned and got like 5 shots in, and they really shoot out a lot of rupees if you manage to catch them unawares like that.
Nice. Pixelated Soul writes in over on Patreon. They said this dungeon, the Fire Temple, was, by the way, temple or dungeon? Pick a lane. We're just calling them temples. Temples are the dungeons.
Doesn't it say Fire Temple?
It does say Fire Temple, but I think in Zelda it's like, well, dungeons, but that's confusing. Right? Or am I guess it's Temple of Time. But
Remember that one?
Yeah.
No, I did pray there, so I guess that makes it a temple.
Yeah, okay. Anyways,
And you got to use your brain, which is right next to your temple.
Oh, right, smart. This dungeon was maddening because I needed Yunobo to break those giant pink rocks, but he was always wandering off. So many times I had to walk away from the rock towards Yunobo, physically pushed him into a position, then press A to trigger his rolling power. It's very frustrating. I had a lot of situations too where it's like, I needed to break a block right in front of me, but I was like, wait, it's not exactly a peggle, like, angle thing of where he's going to shoot off. It's just kind of like, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. And it's kind of confusing, but like, is he going to go? Okay, no, he's just going to fall straight down here. So just trying to like control him was more frustrating than I expected.
It got better when my wife pointed out that you don't have to be standing, like you don't have to stand stationary in the spot you want to shoot him from, which is how I was like,
what?
Come over here. I need you at this angle. Like you can run up to him, talk to him, and then walk to the place that you want to shoot from and aim him. Like you're still mobile once he's in front of you rolling around.
Okay, gotcha.
And I hadn't put that together with my baby brain before my wife pointed that out. So
gotcha.
That made it less frustrating. But so yeah, sometimes the path, and I was having a lot of trouble trying to shoot him up the lava bridges that I was putting
Me
them
too.
all over the place.
Yep.
And but sometimes even like I couldn't get his rolling body onto it, but even just standing on it myself and then shooting him, it would just kind of fudge it and put him on the path. But none of it is clear, and it's all a little bit frustrating.
Yeah.
Really important Twitch comment I want to shout out right now.
Mm-hmm.
The Tough Ghost says, I just found out that you can press ZL to make the item you're holding during Ultra Hand immediately go flat.
Yeah.
Reset the orientation.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, and that's really huge. I feel like that takes the friction I've had with that system out of it. That's really cool.
It's really handy just for a quick reset for sure. Also, shout out, I really like the music in the Fire Temple. There's one section of it that sounds like it's sort of an Arkham game. Like it kept looping, and every time that part would pop up, I was like, what does this remind me of? Like, oh, that's right. Batman.
Can we talk about the music?
Sure.
Because I think it's very weird how much of it is exactly the same as Breath of the Wild.
Yep.
You know, it's like, I'm not saying the game's lazy, whatever, but it's just like the riding music is just exact. Like I've listened to the Breath of the Wild soundtrack so many times, and it's just like, or when you're in the labyrinth, it's the same labyrinth music. It's just kind of like, I don't, unlike remaking the entire world map, it doesn't seem like it's like, oh, we don't have the resources to make a new soundtrack. Yeah. It's just kind of confusing to me. I like the new stuff, and I like the Breath of the Wild soundtrack, but I don't think there's any other Zelda game that's just been like, here's the same soundtrack again.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that. It's like, at the same time, it's like, oh, that stable music's so good, but I want to hear the music there. But, and you know, every time the music is really noticeable, it's always like during a cutscene or something. Like when Link's getting the abilities from his little buddies and stuff, I think that music's always been incredible as his tiny hand is being held out to the giant big hand for the fist bump, whatever. But like, yeah, gameplay wise, I guess like boss fight music and stuff too, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing of like, will we ever know? Did they run out of time, or did they just realize at a certain point, like, you know what, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Nostalgia's a hell of a drug. Let's leave it in. I don't know.
I mean, they did add so many layers to the music that it does. I very much noticed that it has been Breath of the Wild music, but it almost feels like here's a new way to appreciate this music because it's not like dead silent other than for, you know, twinkling pianos or whatever outside of these sections. So I feel like the addition of all of the like more I don't know, straightforward music, like more just like, yes, this is a video game soundtrack as opposed to the very light amount it got in Breath of the Wild, kind of makes those lighter sections and those other things. Like, I think I appreciated more from this layering of it. That doesn't mean that, like, I don't know. Like, it's cool, always cool when there is new music to enjoy. So I think that would have been nice too. But I don't know. I think just the amount of new layers they've added to it actually makes it cool to me.
Yeah. Let's see. Elliot S. They say, I finally found a steering wheel dispenser. It took so long. I've been experimenting more and more and with what I can build and have fallen in love with the balloon plus battery plus rocket plus flame emitter combo. I also got the auto build and it's super nice to have. Also, somebody asked about the hero's path last week. It's in the game. Winky winky, says Elliot. Interesting. Yeah, the first time when I got that like control unit, like the steering wheel, it was just like, oh, okay, now it's game on. Now we can actually control this stuff. That's very satisfying.
Yeah, I put a few extra into that one for sure, just to stock up for the future.
Yeah.
Comes up a lot.
Also, I love just how it makes you just feel like Han Solo with the Millennium Falcon or something. Like every time like I build this big contraption, then it's like, yeah, and you just like hit it once to make it go. It's just like banging on the dash of a car.
That's true. The jukebox.
Yeah. Brian Stanley writes in, they say, my horse kept freaking out over small bumps in the road, so I just build flying machines now. Mountain climbing takes time and rain may strike at any moment, so I glide in from the sky. I am probably skipping over engaging sections of the map in my hunt for towers, but it never feels that way. No matter the speed or scope of my travel, I'm still presented with more frequent and higher quality challenges than in Breath of the Wild. The fact that it all takes place in a land which is both familiar and mysterious feels like a dream. It takes my breath away. I love it. I love just going into this game. It's like, this is just a flying game. This is just a Crimson Sky sequel. F it. Like, it's super cool. Auburn A says, I'm finding the fuse ability to be mechanically satisfying, but aesthetically unappealing. Zelda has always had one foot planted in the realm of quirky, and fusing items to arrows is fine, but running around with a sword sticking out of their sword is just on the other side of too goofy. It's a fun system. I know this is a me problem. I wish I could let it go.
You did it, pal.
I wish I could let go and enjoy the silliness, but I find myself wanting a blacksmithing system to enhance weapons instead. Still, it's far from a deal breaker. This game's everything that I wanted and way more.
Sounds like putting a rock on the end of a sword, like, looks cool. Or certain types of bokoblin horns, like, you can make really aesthetically pleasing stuff and really, really stupid stuff. I've had 2 torches stacked on top of each other in my inventory for hours and hours.
I mean, also, like, just if you combine any 2 Zonai things and it looks great. It looks very, very intentional. And I feel like there's a lot of things like that where, you know, there are silly things like, yes, you can have a 2-arm combo, like, you know, just 2 skeleton arms stacked, or you can have a like very normal looking, you know, like amber tipped sword or whatever.
Yeah.
The stuff used to the shield is so cool too. The cart shield looks perfect, and the wing shield, I don't know what you can really do with it if it helps you glide at all, but it does look really awesome, that like eagle on Link's back.
Oh, I gotta do that. That sounds great.
I did notice, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, this is not Horizon Forbidden West in terms of like the fidelity they're going for, where I literally in the first scene, because I was not on the last episode, when Link is just walking with the Master Sword clips through the ground. Just the normal walk cycle is just, I was like, really, the Master Sword? Like that one clips through the ground? But it's just like, yeah, your whole game is going to be like a long stick attached to a claymore, and it is going to go, it's not going to fit through any doorway, and it just like doesn't matter. Like it's fine.
I love just making uglier and uglier weapons. And like the first time I got a boomerang, I was really excited because like a high-end boomerang that I got in like those under Hyrule Castle things. And then realized like, oh, now I'm fusing a sword onto a boomerang, and it's exactly as stupid as you think. It's like the boomerang shape, and then and here's a spear coming out the end of it, but F it, I guess it'll work still. It's delightfully dumb.
That's awesome. One of my favorite on-the-fly crafting things is to take an explosive barrel and craft it, and like attach it to my sword, and then throw that.
Oh,
you can throw it so far. It's really useful.
We Go Giant says, unsurprisingly, speedrunners are hard at work finding glitches for the game. Turns out that it's possible to start a new file and transfer the Master Sword from the opening to your standard file. And it's not that hard to pull off. It took me like 10 minutes. And the glitched Master Sword has infinite durability. Apparently you can look that up if anybody is desperate for the Master Sword, apparently.
Well, yeah, there's been a lot of people have been like duping a lot. You can do kind of inventory duplicating, which, you know, it's like, I'm happy they can do it. I'm not going to, because I like the in-game economy or whatever.
Yep, I'm with you. Rob from Baltimore writes in and says, there's a shrine that gives you a spherical orange float for its puzzles. I accidentally fused the float to a wooden bat. The game correctly named my new weapon Float Bat. I used Float Bat for many hours after that as the float added 0 extra damage, but it rendered the weapon damn near unbreakable. I love thinking about the developer who was tasked with giving the float a durability value and was like, screw it, this float is the strongest item in the game now. I haven't seen that yet, so I've got to look for just like a spherical orange float, they say.
It's like a buoy. You use it,
weird.
it's like in the water and then you use it to like hold up a bridge. But I had no idea that you could fuse it and take it out of there.
Weird. Has anybody found those platforms that I guess they're Zonai that just like stay right where you leave them?
Yeah, the hover things.
Yeah, how are you guys using those? Because I just tinkered it a little bit, but I don't really get it.
Fans didn't seem powerful enough to move them, but rockets did.
Okay.
I didn't quite crack them.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done a shrine where it's just like you put a bridge on top of it and then you can like hover it over a gap or something. But they don't seem as mobile, so I think they're kind of for a platform. Although I did see another thing in the depths is there are the Yiga who have all sorts of just like gadgets. They've just been like building like transformers down there since Breath of the Wild. And so those guys will have like mobile sniper turrets with those hover things. So they're just kind of hovering around and will like shoot you with a cannon.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Yeah, I think it was kind of in the northeast section, but in the Skylands area, there's that whole section where it's just like a bunch of those floating platforms and they have like control sticks on them or rockets. And it's just like a whole series of them. And you can kind of navigate around, you know what I'm talking about? And then like, it's my favorite thing they had, where's like the green laser. And it's like, you need to connect this green laser to something. It's like, I don't know what that is. Anyway, moving on. And then it was like climbing around on the far side of some sky island and went into this little cave and was like clearing out brush or maybe like I blew up boxes. And then I found like the green gem there. It was like just the perfect level of like, I had forgotten about that. And the fact that this is hidden all the way back here and now I need to put it on one of those floating platforms, bring it all the way back. And then that unlocks a shrine. It's like, it's just perfect. But I found another one of those green gems someplace else and I didn't know where to go. Like, are those little green gems, like the Sims things, are those always like shrines in waiting that I need to pour water on to blow up? Okay. Huh.
Yeah, you just need to find the right shrine and start it.
Yeah, there is a good one. Sometimes there are the sky islands that have the little like cannons where you can just stand in front of them and it'll like shove you. And I did one where you had to like put it on that or something and it flew away. It's good stuff.
That's good. Yaro says the shrines are a big improvement over Breath of the Wild. I ran across Jochi-Iu Shrine just south of the Akala Ancient Tech Lab in the northeast corner, and I played a giant game of Jenga in it.
Oh my God, that was so good.
I haven't found that one yet.
Awesome.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
It's another one where like, you know, you can do some fun, cheesy things to it. Like I played around with the Jenga part for a while. And then at a certain point I was like, I wonder if I could just like make it topple and then recall and grab it out of the air. And you totally can. And I was just like, great.
Oh,
nice.
So good.
That moment of like, what am I looking at here? How do I interact with this? What do I do? And then realizing like, oh, I have the complete context. Now that I recognize it.
That's genius. Yeah, it's just, they're so smart about like, we know what you want to do. We will just design these shrines to be fun above all else. Like there's that really simple one where it's just like, you need to bang the gong. So you have like the weird arm, then you put a rocket on it and it like spins it around to like bang the gong. Like, yeah, you know what? Banging gongs is fun. Or like there's one where it eventually ends up where there's just a bunch of little metal balls and you need to put them over into their big thing. And so you just make like a bulldozer. It's like, scooping up a bunch of balls with a bulldozer. They know this is going to satisfy everybody.
Completely pointless because you could just pick up the balls by using Ultra Hand, but it's like, no, I am definitely building a giant pushing scoop machine for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
a part where you can feed dog. Oh, there's a part where you can feed a dog and it's supposed to lead you to the treasure. There's like 100 chests that just have green rupees in it, but I couldn't get the dog to follow me, so I just looked in 100 chests. And it sucked.
It sucks. That's a shrine?
No, it's just a random cave.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's fine. I haven't seen that.
There's a shrine where you just play mini golf, where
Really?
you kind of make like a hammer pendulum thing, and you just pull it back. And
yes.
Boop a little.
I think that might be the bulldozer shrine. I forget. Maybe those are two separate ones. But yeah, I love that.
No, I think so. I did
yeah,
the
it's
one thing I was
different.
talking about yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Joshin1206 says, ever since I learned you can use Ultra Hand to move something, then bring it back to you, hop on and recall to move it back where you had it floating and create a kind of floating platform / elevator, I've skipped so many puzzles in several shrines and I feel kind of bad about it. If the developer saw you do that, they would smile. I'm more confident of that than anything else. That is the game. Don't feel bad.
If you feel bad about it, you can change your behavior though.
But if you can't,
maybe that's your guilt telling you you would have more fun doing it a different way, and maybe follow that impulse.
That's true. The only way I'll feel bad about that is like if outside of the big bridges thing, if like 5 years from now, if there's just kind of agreed upon, these are the 3 canonical ways to break the game. Like as long as it's kind of fun and not a scientific system to break it, I think I'm all for it.
Yeah, I tried to do that. Wiggle a rock around and then recall it so it hits the guy over and over again.
Yeah.
Humiliating. Nothing happened.
Really?
Missed him completely.
Spencer S. Redson and says, putting aside all the major new things in the game, I've consistently been surprised and delighted by the small changes they've made. If you have to narrow it down to one, the improvements to some of the elemental interactions and the way the magic rods work really impressed me. They're a bit too hard to use effectively in Breath of the Wild, but I have used sapphire rods on more than one occasion to cross a body of water with ice when I couldn't make a good boat. This also makes gemstones useful for something other than just selling this time. Yeah, I just picked them up from enemies, but I have like a couple of rods, but I never use them. But you all are frequent rod users.
You've attached gems to them?
I think they were already attached. Maybe I got them at a treasure chest or something.
You get them from the wizard guys.
Yeah, that's what it is.
They come pre-elemental.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I use especially the freeze one all the time because it's just such a nice way to like approach an enemy encounter if you're like not fully if you have like 4 things coming at you, just like I'm just gonna freeze a couple of them. Okay, let me kill these 2 guys, and now they're thawing, and I can get them or whatever.
I have a sneak blade with ice element added onto it, and it's so useful to get that first sneak attack and then freeze them to get the follow-up attacks.
That sounds good.
I forgot about the sneak attacks until, and I think this is like exactly the way the game is designed, but like there are things I forget about and then I go into a shrine where it's like that's the entire thing.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about the sneak attack until I was just in a shrine yesterday that made you do sneak attacks. And I was like, oh, right.
Is that shrine, that one, I felt like in that shrine, the thing would just randomly turn around. Like the sneaking is harder than I think it should be, and I don't know if I'm doing something. I did read something that said if you want to sneak better, you should take off your pants, which is very funny because now Link is like pantsless and walking after someone. But like I've kind of had enemies just like whirl around when I have been like crouch walking towards them in a way that feels kind of unintended.
Yeah, so it's not unintended. It's that you have like having anything equipped basically like makes noise in the game, and so I usually just take eat something that has the sneak up for it, and then you're completely silent. Because I got frustrated with that too, especially with like trying to get horses and stuff. It's like I am moving at like 0.2 miles an hour slowly through the grass, but it's just anything you have on you is like rustling and making noises. So you either go do it naked or you eat something for stealth, I guess.
Crouch walking slower, not moving the thumbstick all the way seems to make a difference for sure. But you already go so slow when you're crouch walking, it's kind of not a good experience. And even with the sneaky elixir, I saved a clip of me going, oh, there's this little encampment in the depths. Let me take this sneaky elixir. And I crouch walk, and then they turn around and see me from 15 feet away for no reason. After I pop this like 9-minute stealth elixir.
I did see a thing where people are catching horses by, instead of sneaking up on them, you just make a box and put it like over the horse.
It's old-fashioned Pokeball style. That's sweet. I saw this clip where somebody like broke the game's physics by making a box that was open on one side, kind of like a fridge with the door open, and they like just put it behind an NPC and was like scooting it slowly closer and closer to the NPC. And the NPC eventually was like fully inside the box. And it was like a magic trick, but they like closed the box and then just ultra handed it and just like turned it sideways, and that's it. And somehow like the game's physics could not handle that. And it was something like, and just like shot off into the sky because the idea of an NPC being sideways apparently was just too much for the game to handle. Grothels wrote in and they say, I love this game, but is it just me? Or is the difficulty wildly inconsistent? I've successfully fought through the Northwest Wind Temple and now the Chasm Rock Monster without a huge upgrade with armor gear, but I beat both without almost dying. I didn't have to use much to heal either. But I also had moments out in the world fighting monsters and getting annihilated in a couple of hits, like Leo. They say, also, fun fact, because I died so much, I've noticed that the game over font changes based on your death. Red is normal, blue is frozen, yellow is electric. I'm not sure of the other colors yet. I know it's changing, but I didn't figure out exactly what was going on there.
I did notice that finally when I died of electrocution for the first time. And I was like, oh, it's yellow. Oh, I wonder if these have been, yeah. I think that's a cool little touch.
I don't feel the need to like harp on it at this point because I'm past it and in a place where I'm having a lot of fun. It feels balanced. Although it is a little annoying to have to go into my menu and eat something every time I get hit, but that's just the nature of how this game works. But there was a big gap there where like every death, you know, it never feels great to die, but in some games it feels extra not your fault, and this was one of them for me for sure. Always getting shot from behind and feeling like the combat was too clunky to do what I wanted to do.
And it's just, you know, it's like I don't have a problem with kind of like the palette swapped enemies from like a variety perspective, but it is just like, oh, this bokoblin hitting me does like 9 hearts, right, even though it looks exactly the same as the one that does 1. And I feel like there's not enough visual indication of like, hey, this one's really dangerous and this one's not, and so I just go up to them and I'm doing the same kind of fighting I always do, and then we'll just get like one shot, and it feels like, how was I supposed to know that this one was the extra mean one?
Yeah. That said, I do think the autosaves in this game have been incredible so far. Every time I've died, I've been like, I don't know, and it's like, oh, I'm a lot closer than I thought I was going to be, except for in like underneath the Hyrule Castle, whatever those royal chambers things are called, because like went all the way through and there's kind of like a first kind of big opening, and they have one of the big Cyclops skeleton guys. I forget, there's like Skrillex, whatever the hell their name is. And he takes like forever to uncover and then fight. And I was having kind of a tough time with him. And then I would kill him, and then I'd mine everything in this huge room and then move on to the next area. And then that's where I literally blew myself up Jeffem style with bombs 3 times. 3 times I was like, it's setting me back after the entire boss fight again and again and again. And to call it a boss is probably not fair, just huge enemy, but I was really surprised that
is surprising. I feel like every time you take down a really big enemy, it autosaves right after it.
Yeah.
I haven't had that experience, so that sucks. I'm sorry.
Hey, Kelsey, thank you. You know what? I was having a tough time. Mason Cowell.
Okay.
Hey, you know what, Kelsey? Thank you. Have you been having a tough time anything in the game? Can we comfort you?
There've been boss fights where I'm just, or mini boss, whatever, those like just big things that have a health bar are basically.
Yeah.
Where I definitely feel like I'm doing plenty of damage. I feel like I'm ready to fight it, and then it one shots me, and like that doesn't feel good when you're like, I could get through this fight if I was allowed to get hit once. Like, this is definitely something in my skill level that I can take down. I'm doing enough damage to it. Because, like, in other games, if it's something that, like, you are just not, like, quote-unquote leveled for or, like, ready for gear-wise or whatever, like, usually you're doing, like, no damage to it. Like, there's some other indication that, like, you're just not ready for this. But, yeah, I've had a couple of them. And, yeah, the skeleton Hinox guys, Skrillex's, was one example of that, where I was just like, I mean, I got him within a pretty small chunk of his health, and then he hit me once, and then it's just all of that was for nothing. And I was like, that doesn't feel right. I don't like that.
Yeah,
I think it is like an actual problem of the game's design, which this game does not have many of, but like you can carry effectively unlimited full heals in your backpack that you can use at any time. Yeah. And so it seems like in order to make difficulty they're just like, well, you're going to get one shot. Because if you didn't get one shot, then you could just cook, 400 meat skewers and bring them into a fight. And so it's like, I understand it, but it's really not a good feeling way of getting around that problem.
I think you're right. Yeah. And I guess it's them also trying to encourage you of like, oh, don't have enough hearts? Well, there's a solution for that. Go solve some puzzles, everybody. Go back to those shrines. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, though, is like, loving the exploration so much and feeling like, oh, shouldn't have explored. Should have just sought out the green rings for the first 15 hours only.
Yep. I found one shrine I couldn't figure out. I think it was called like Courage in Falling. And it was the first one that I encountered where it had like a green key. And I was like, I don't know it's a big space. I don't know what the hell it wants me to do here.
Is this, I think Kelsey brought this one up last week.
Okay.
Because I remember
the empty
thinking
room one?
I couldn't do it. Yeah.
Well,
I figured it out.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So this is the one where it's basically just a big, tall, empty room, right? Okay.
I don't think so for me, anyways.
There is a green gate at the end there, and there's something behind that green gate. And did you know you can shoot arrows through that gate? That's all I'll say.
Thank you.
Yep. Hanson, yours is different, and I got stuck on it a long time.
Ooh.
And the answer is in the name of the shrine.
I figured that much. I just didn't know where to fall.
It's
Well, the lasers aren't an instant death.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is the answer.
Okay. I'll go back
It's like
to
the
this.
lasers trigger something instead of just killing you.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. I also got stuck on that one too. I know which one you're talking about now. And
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And I think another
Cool.
one you're talking about too. I was streaming it and people were able to coach me on that one. It's nice to stream this game every once in a while just to have that feedback of, even with a game where you can kind of fudge so many puzzles, just to have people be like, it's simpler than you think it is. Just shoot an arrow. It's like, okay, got it. Mason Cowell writes in and says, I'm starting to experiment with the homing cart Zonai device. I love sending my little buddy into the battle, spewing flames from all sides, then lobbing muddle buds into the enemies to spread even more chaos. It's so much fun to clear out entire enemy camps by only killing the last monster standing. That's awesome. Just wait for them to take each other out.
Cool.
Let's see. Chicken Harm says, I really like the Pura Pad having the design of the Switch. It makes me feel more immersed, like I'm actually in the game. Yeah, I guess I kind of had that with the last one too, but yeah. You know what? That's fine.
Well, the last one, it looked like a Wii U.
I guess that's true. I guess
And
that's
this
true.
time it looks like a Switch.
My name is...
Speaking of Switch, was thinking about the Fire Temple and its performance problems and whatever points where this game is not technically perfect. And I was thinking about how like that might not bother me because it's such a miracle. It's on such a small thing. Like I haven't felt that more than this past weekend where I brought it to my girlfriend's family reunion and was able to have that experience like in bed at night or out by the fire when we're reading or whatever. Like crazy. It's interesting that when they put out an incredibly good Switch game like this, it's automatically one of the best handheld games ever made.
Yeah. Yep. It is weird.
And also 16 gigabytes.
That is
just like
bananas. Truly bananas.
Like Call of Duty patches are 10 times bigger than that.
Yes.
Basically.
Sure. Literally. Nick from
Literally.
Yeah, Jeff. Nick from Atlanta writes in and says, I feel like they're underutilizing Pura and how I do anything for her. We got it, Nick. We got it. But really, having completed various things around Hyrule, I feel like I should be reporting back to her more about the things I found. For the scientific head of investigating everything, it feels like she should have more dialogue that reflects me finishing long quest lines. I haven't really even seen her for a long time. Like, it must not be as
Yeah,
cool.
I get the sense that we should be going back to look out. I mean, I know they call it like the home base or whatever, but I have not gone back there.
That's the first thing I'm doing after this. It's come up so many times.
Yeah. There's things that subtly change around there. Let's see. My name is Dan says, gentle reminder that you can rebind the controls/buttons in Switch settings. I switched my sprint to my left thumbstick. It makes it a bit awkward to drop items, but I still prefer being able to sprint and move my camera at the same time. Yeah, that's an option if you're interested in that type of thing. Let's see. Spencer Botine, I guess I'll keep this. Maybe we can save it in the future, but they talk about the creepy goop hands. And they're like, hey, you should try and beat those creepy goop hands. Some cool stuff happens. I haven't.
Hands?
Hands?
Hands.
Oh, hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys are
hands.
hard. I
Yeah.
freeze them and run away typically.
Yeah, I just ran away from them too, but there's cool stuff if you beat them, so you should try and do that. Peter G, I assume Griffin, writes in and says, writing this as I sit in an airport at an airport bar on a 4-hour layover, one of the most underrated things about the climbing mechanic is that it's a perfect excuse to take a sip of beer, as it only requires one hand. That is true, thank you.
I was in the bathroom, but I had my headphones on.
Oh, no.
I've beat the hands.
Keep it secret, I think.
I won't say what it is, but there's like another fight that happens after it. But the thing that I got is really interesting because it's a weapon that does a lot of damage, but every time you hit someone, it does like the gloom effect where it like takes one of my hearts away.
Ooh, that's sweet. That's sweet.
So, but it
weapon.
doesn't actually hurt you. It just takes a heart away. So the kind of interesting usage is like if I'm fighting something and I'm down to like 3 hearts and I have 7 empty heart containers, I take out that cursed weapon and suddenly I'm just smashing away.
We didn't really talk about that the Death Mountain boss. Like it's kind of cool. Like it's kind of fun to like aim the Goron and like send him around the top and hit him. But there's another one that's like surprisingly easy, I guess. But
Yeah, I found that one easy until just the very end where he's on the ceiling, and then it wasn't even that it was hard; it was just finicky.
It would seem like
Like
you were rolling the dice on whether you're gonna hit him or not because the lens moved as he was
At a
going.
certain point, I just felt like I was just like sending him up the ceiling randomly with like a 1 in 3 chance of him actually hitting the guy, and like just fine.
yeah, for sure. Let's see. Jared P writes in and says, today I found a skeletal horse in a field above ground. I was able to mount it and was surprised to see that they reacted positively to you petting them. I don't think this happened in Breath of the Wild, so I was hopeful that I'd be able to register at a stable. Unfortunately not. But nevertheless, I kept on my journey with my new pal, the skeletal horse. As it started to get light outside at dawn, I hopped off its back so we could watch the sunrise together, and I took out an apple to thank him for carrying me this far. As the clock struck 5, he finished the apple and then fell over dead with the pink happiness cloud around his head.
Wow.
Beautiful.
It's really unbelievable, Jared. Thank you.
That's great.
I didn't know they were above ground. I've only seen them in the depths.
Oh, I haven't even seen him down there. I got to
In the depths, they are clutch.
Ooh.
They are so nice to find down there.
Luca A says, I want to give a big shout out to the localization teams all around the world. I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom in Italian, and it's one of the best localized games I've ever played. Localizing riddles is challenging, but not only do they do it in an endearing way, every single item has a believable, funny name to it. Major kudos to anyone who worked on Tears of the Kingdom, says Luca. And then Yodel, I love this, says, something I did in Breath of the Wild and continued in Tears of the Kingdom is I changed the spoken language for the game when I entered a new region. In my playthrough, Central Hyrule is English, the Rito are French, the Goron are German, the Zora are Italian, and the Sheikah are Japanese. The Garuda are Spanish, and the Zonai are Russian. Did I get this right? Yeah. That's unbelievable.
That rules. That's so
love
cool. What a great idea.
That's a really excellent idea. Let's see. Gerudo are Spanish. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Gorons are German. That's interesting. All right. Zonai are Russian.
Germans are always talking about Red Rock Roast.
Oh,
It's true.
national
Yeah, I mean, that
delicacy.
would be a German food if it was anything, right? Like,
That's true. Things that we've missed that stood out from this chunk of the game for anybody? I had a wow moment when I was just skydiving, which you do a lot in this game, and then like a star fragment came down and was falling down next to me. Just a small little moment of like, God, that's so cool. I love like trying to now like navigate over to catch this thing that's dropping next to me. It's such a unique feeling.
I mean, I have had multiple moments, usually when I am on a Skyland, at like sunset or dusk, and you're just looking at the horizon, and it just like something about the lighting in this game consistently gets me to go like, this is one of the best looking games I have ever played. Like it is all lighting, and I don't understand like what it's doing that is different from other games, but like the way that you were just like blasted with light from across the land is it's nuts. I can't get over it, and I can't remember the last game where like 30 hours in I would still just like look at a sunset and be like, oh my God, I can't believe that that's what it looks like.
Yep, I had just the perfect moment in this game of like climbing in the sandy mountains and stuff in the Northeast. And then just like pausing and realizing like, oh, I can just overlook the entire map here and just like looking out at the most beautiful vista as the sun's setting. And there's like troops of enemy marches, like just marching by like a whole squad of bokoblins. Like, this is an unbelievable game. How did they pull this off? It's ridiculous.
So cool. A little thing I don't think we mentioned was the point where you're going to the Wind Temple and you get up above the weather all of a sudden. Oh, that was a really cool moment.
Jacob, did you like that moment? Is that a little Matrix
I was a
for
big
you?
fan.
Yeah, that's exactly your cup of tea. Jeff, anything we haven't hit from you? Missions in the future, all that fun stuff?
No. I don't know I don't know how I'm gonna get through it, because it's honestly, there's so much more that I could have done around Gerudo or Goron City that I still feel like I want to go explore before I go to the next quadrant, and so much stuff that I have apparently missed just in the north as well, that it's just, and underground, my God, I've explored a bunch in this chunk, but it's such a tiny part. It's like 3 shrines worth of like a triangle down there, that it's just, there's so much game here, and I'm just happy that I'm enjoying it so much more because I want to keep playing.
Yeah. I was taking notes for myself of like, okay, Fairy Fountain, the Zonai charges, you got to bring the pose there. I'm trying to think of like all the other things I need to hit right when I get back to dive into this game. But all right, the next episode of The Deepest Dive is happening June 5th. So not next week, but June 5th. Well, this is confusing. Technically, we collect the comments on June 4th. We record it on June 5th on Twitch, and then it's up for everybody else. So it should be in the evening of June 5th, I guess. For that, so June 4th on Patreon, patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, where you can help support this Game Club format directly if you enjoy the format. And you can also submit comments for us to read on the next discussion. We're covering the southern portion of the map, the entire southern portion of the map. So southwest, southeast. Don't beat the final boss yet. We're saving that for the future, and then we'll dive into more story stuff at that point. But that is going to be Sunday, June 4th. We're collecting your comments over on Patreon about the southern part of this map and everything else that we haven't really talked about in a big way, other than the story stuff, which we can save for the future, because that'll be, the plan is, just to let everybody know, we're going to be covering the southern portion of the map. Have I mentioned that? Sunday, June 4th. But then there's going to be a bit of a gap before we come back, just to allow for people like Jeff and other people in the community who don't want to feel rushed, who can write it about everything. So we'll then be back later in June, probably June 26th, realistically, probably without me, sadly, to kind of mop up the story stuff and everything else in the end of the game, everything that we missed. So you'll have time to digest and explore a little bit more fully before we give the big send-off. So a total of 4 episodes for this Deepest Dive, which again, you can unlock the podcast version of by going to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, right in your favorite podcast app. Right? It's right where you listen to all other podcasts. It's the most convenient thing in the world. You don't have to sit here on YouTube like a schmuck. All right. Truly, have we hit everything? Anybody else dying to say anything?
How do you catch fairies?
I descend on them from above and grab them out of the air.
All right, good. That's it. I'm good.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for playing the game, submitting comments for us to read. Greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you in 2 weeks for the next episode of The Deepest Dive on Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So long, everybody. You've seen the headlines. You know that the media landscape is consolidating. Having truly independent games media is more important than ever. MinnMax can exist independently as a place about games, friends, and getting better, but we need your help. The good news is that it's easy. Just click on that subscribe button or unlock a mountain of benefits by going to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Thanks so much, everybody.